Good evening, everybody, everyone. This is a reconvening of the September regular meeting of the Harmon CDD. I welcome everybody here today, and I'm glad to have you here. Again, this is a continuation. We met and started the meeting on Thursday, the 29th of October. And at that point, we continued the meeting and took a recess until tonight's meeting because of the emergency hurricane conditions. So we welcome you all here today. Again, as this is one meeting, the supervisors will be getting one check and one check only for this continued meeting and the initial start of the meeting because it is an ongoing meeting. At this point in time, I'd like to ask everybody if, as we move along in the meeting, if we try to be clear with our statements and not talk over or finish another person's sentence. Brenda, who normally handles our minutes, is not available tonight, so she'll be working straight off the recorder. So if you can help us with that, I appreciate it. At this time, we'll go through just to identify who is here this evening. Dan Lee. Here. Carol Castle. Present. Joe Phillips. Here. Dane Short. Here. And Teresa Kramer is here. So we do have a quorum and all are on the meetings. And at the start of the meeting, we also had a quorum. We had 5 individuals present, and that was recorded. At this time, we'll move into the next item. Four. Pardon? Four. I'm sorry. Four members in attendance. Ms. Phillips was unavailable. So, at this time, we'll go into audience comments. Audience comments are a time for you all to speak to the board and give your ideas, your feelings, your concerns. It's not a time for back and forth or discussion of the issues. So it's a time for you to present. If you're coming up to speak to the board, you need to approach the microphone is right here and give your name and address for the record. So we'll have a record of it on minutes. Is there anyone who would like to provide comments at tonight's meeting? Yes, please.
Name is Deborah Bear and Michael Bear. We live at 6838 Butterfly Drive. I'm a repeat, and my two concerns are: is there a time frame for when the trees in the green zone is going to be trimmed? I brought this up last time because it was started. There was complication with the equipment, and whatever problems came up, then it was abandoned. And then I thought a new budget, there is tree trimming, and you're going on a different route. I'd like to know, when will the trees be trimmed in the green zone, especially butterfly and dark sky? First concern. Second thing is lumped into one is landscaping. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but for the last 5 years, if not more, it seems like the landscaping, this development seems to be going downhill, not uphill. Okay, there's weeds in the CDD property. It just needs a facelift. A good example, I stand on my front porch on Butterfly Drive. I watch the company, Cervello, put down the mulch around the trees. I'm a big fan of trees having edging around them. Some of the trees, when you come into the first entrance, they have edging around them. The mulch goes inside the edging, not outside. If you look at a lot of the trees in our community, the mulch just flies all over. I watch them blow out this big tube, and it's just haphazardly, and it looks terrible. And a lot of the mulch ends up on the street. I know Cervello was the least expensive, but just because they're the least expensive doesn't mean they need to be the worst. They put in an honest bid for honest day work. As a member of this community, myself and others feel they need to be held accountable. If being held accountable, meaning holding back pay until the job is done accurately or correctly, then we need to do it. And if the people who are managing or observing Cervello, if they're not doing their job and holding the money, we need to look at our management company then. But something needs to be done. This place is falling apart. I love it too much. And when the first thing as a homeowner, when you go into a community, I look at landscaping to see how beautiful it is. And 12 years ago, it was beautiful. Now we need a major facelift. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further audience comments? Anyone on Zoom? Do we have any hands up, Dan?
I see this is Meek, connecting the audio. I'm not sure if he's trying to, speak or not.
Good for just-
Is council on audio?
Yes.
Okay,
Which one?
Mike.
Mike? Okay.
okay. All right, hearing no further audience comment, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. At this time, the consent agenda includes the acceptance of the July 28th, 2022 and August 15th, 2022 minutes. And a clarification on that, there were amended minutes sent out on October 5th, and these are the minutes that we will be voting on. Acceptance of the August 2022 financial statements and approval of number 268 invoices and check registers.
So I move to approve with the changes that were included in the October 5th revisions.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second, and is that for the whole consent agenda?
For the whole consent agenda. Yeah.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion from other board members? I just have one quick question on the invoices and check register. I noticed an invoice from the Land of Sentinel for legal ads, but it didn't tell me what that legal ad was for.
For your budget.
Okay, and that's the one that had to get bumped. That normal.
No, the one that got bumped, we paid for. That was our mistake. That was your regular advertising.
If they could just include
A copy.
A copy of
Of
the
the-
text, because the Sentinel provides it to us.
Sure.
That way we'll know what we're talking about. And the other concern was our Toho bill. It was 17,000 this month. This time last year, it's 4,000. We are in the rainy season. I'm quite confused, so we need to look further at that. I do not get to go through it. So, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. Next item on our agenda is contractor report. Mr. Relevant. Up to the mic.
How you doing tonight?
Good help.
Good. So quick, my crew will be on site tomorrow. We have from swim club, Five Oaks East to finish mowing and a few other ponds. So we will be here on site.
We love to have you. You've been noticeable. And I did not, quick sidebar, I put your request on Facebook about the consultant, but
Worth a shot.
we'll keep our eyes out, and if they turn it into the trailer collections.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions, Sir Bell?
Just to follow up on Mrs. Bear's comment about getting things back in shape. Just want to know what the plan is for that.
Okay, her concern was tree trimming and the mulching of the community,
And the edging of the trees.
edging of the trees up there. That's part of our maintenance, and we'll make sure we get on that. And now, what I want you to do understand as well is that we do use a mulch company to go on the mulch. It's more efficient too. The other thing too is that you have pine bark. Okay, pine bark can fly around regardless, whether you want to hand install it, whatever, it's very light melt, so they wash out of the rain. So you're gonna always have that issue with that. Okay, as trees get larger, we have to expand the tree list, which basically in the future, we're gonna need more mulch on these tree rings.
Right.
As for lifting your trees, we've got the tree trimmers already out there. They're only used for. So I have Pete similar calendar schedule for the rest of it. They're gonna be moving straight down 5 Oaks until they get to Catbrier. I mean, they look like they're hanging low, but a lot of them on Catbrier, they're not hanging low because the contract says for 15 feet in height requirements there. Once they go down Catbrier, which are limited for a week, then they'll go down Schoolhouse. Schoolhouse is a lot. Same thing, large trees, but low hanging trees in Schoolhouse. Schoolhouse will consume a little bit more time. Once they're working their way down Schoolhouse, your lane where dark sky and butterflies and all those areas that they'll be taken care of. Those are your smaller trees. A lot of your smaller trees, we're not gonna use pole saws on them. They need hand saws on them or 194s, which is a very small chainsaw. We don't want to use the large chainsaws on them because we can damage the tree. Okay, it'll be a little bit time consuming as well because you're gonna be using a handsaw to make sure you prune them the right way. Now, they're only gonna be raised up a quarter of the way, so don't expect
Right.
massive.
My concern was that last year we ran out of money, so you couldn't get back to green zone, and you started with green zone. And you didn't complete it, so.
Well, those are contracted.
Okay.
Those trees.
That's,
Contracted.
again, it's, he's presenting to the
Okay.
board, although he's answering the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
My understanding is, well, what happened last time is we had some, unfortunately, a new tree crew substandard work. They were lion's tail and some, the bark was.
It's
falling
our
off.
trees.
And there were some problems on the inside trees.
Yes.
We are at the point, he assured us that they have different tree trimmers in here now and that they are more experienced. And so we will be on this agenda looking at 2 proposals for inside trees again. The outside trees are actually, they started, but because of the storm and everything couldn't finish up in the last fiscal year, they were supposed to be in that. The work they're doing now is for the tree trimming.
Yes, and they're back out here, correct?
So we'll be discussing that in just a few minutes when we get to the.
But just one comment here. I was talking about the rings
I
around
know.
the trees. They're all there is no rings. Can that be fixed? Can that be improved?
Absolutely, they can be edged out, and then any
Yes.
grass protruding through the mulch can be sprayed with Roundup.
Yes,
And
and put,
Chuck, the Pete, here's you out.
and put the grass back around so you would have a circle. Sorry, but those are visual things. Thank you.
Don't make me call you.
No.
All righty, and for the record, that was Deborah Bayer who was speaking to.
I see Deborah in every meeting I come to. so.
That's right. Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments, just in general first?
Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, yeah, we had a resident concern of after the storm of debris being blown back onto their yards. I guess the question I'd have is what's the expectation there? Are you, is that that shouldn't have been happening, my understanding, correct?
Right, because we don't take care of the row anymore, so that should not have happened. Okay, and I don't know if we rectified that issue. We started. Okay.
Okay.
So that won't happen. You know, the one thing, I'm sure you're gonna hear a lot of complaints. I say within the next 2 weeks or so, because the road's not gonna be maintained by us anymore. You know, the homeowners are, you know, I'm sure this is gonna come back to the table and it's gonna be an ongoing issue and stuff like that. But
Well, we have or are sending a letter out to all of those residents along those frontage streets where they are no longer being.
Okay.
Yes, that has not been, I mean, you guys' new contract is in effect, but we have not let those residents know, which will be going out immediately.
Moving on to the
Quick.
proposals.
Quick question, at the last meeting, we discussed issues about irrigation problems in the lakes with irrigation possibly watering the papaya and it kicks on, or no irrigation running in some zones. Have you been out to the lakes and looked at those zones?
Yes. All easement areas that connect to the lake are getting water. Okay, the only 2 zones that on, no easement have been turned on.
Okay, good.
Okay, so
And they'll
every,
just get turned on if we get into. the grass.
yeah, once, if it gets too dry, we just put time on the clock and let it walk.
I'm glad to hear that those are separate systems. One's not affected yet. Thank you. Okay, at this point in time, we'll go ahead and deal, unless there's something else you want to present at this time. We'll go to the proposals.
No, go ahead.
We have the inside tree trimming proposal 7122, which would be a complete inside tree trimming. Which we typically would be doing this fiscal year, but the sycamores have grown so big. They really don't need. I mean, you can't get up to the bottom branches. And our field services crew went out and took off all the suckers that were there. I want to applaud the field services crew for doing that. That looks wonderful.
Thank you, Linda.
So the other option would be just to go back and finish the tree trimming that was not done just a year ago today, just about a year ago today, we stopped that. And that's proposal 7185 for those remaining trees. I was a little confused, and help me understand about the proposal being 14,657. When we stopped the tree trimming last time, there were only, you all had done 85% of the inside trees. Only 15% were left to do. So the money held back was only 15% of the 22,000 for trees that still needed to be done that weren't done. And that was like $3,360. So to complete that tree trimming, why is it all of a sudden such a large figure for the last 15 years?
Well, the only thing Pete and I did, we went through all the neighborhoods, all the streets where trees were not completed, counted it, and I think it's listed on the proposal, how many trees. We evaluated how many trees are gonna have to be hand pruned, which is time consuming versus using chainsaws or pole saws. Also with our current arbor rates, which have increased because of inflation, we came up with that price there. I don't know the exact number of trees on hand, but what we did was count each street or each section of trees there, and we went by that. Again, some trees are gonna need walking with hand saws, which is gonna be extremely time consuming, and some gonna need pole saws. And we did it that way to carefully trim the tree and correctly trim all of them. Now, I know last time when we did it, the tree trimming as well, the inflation wasn't as bad, so we also tried to give Harmony a discount, such as being a loyal customer. Not to say we didn't do that there either, but that's why the price has increased on that. We can revisit, maybe sharpen our pencils if you like us to. I don't have an issue with doing that, but we went off current rates as of now.
But it's 300% more. It's not like 30 or 50% more, it's 300% more.
I understand that. I understand that, Carol. But one of the things I take into account too is your average trees you get out here and trim, especially large trees. You get out here and your average large trees you trim is particularly 22 to 25. Medium trees, you can get somewhere between 30 and 35. When you have the hand prune trees, you might get 15 trees because you're going around with the hand saw. A lot of the trees we're identifying here are smaller trees as well.
But then when we were working on the amount we should pay you when we closed out the last contract because of the problems with the tree crew, why wasn't that increase figured in? Because most of the trees you've done have been large trees, and the small trees, the blazing star, butterfly, dark sky, cordgrass. I mean, there
Well,
were
with that-
only 8 streets not done, and there were
Well, with that proposal too, keep in mind that we're talking mostly oak trees here. These are all oaks, which are more time consuming than they are with the sycamores.
Right.
A lot of the trees we did in that, including that proposal, which is less, I charge for sycamores. Because you don't take off as much foliage. We can get in here and trim 50 sycamores in one day, sometimes 60 sycamores in one day, because it's the amount of foliage we're taking off the sycamores.
But understand what I'm saying is that we paid 85% of the previous contract. And now you're saying that the trees remaining are really worth 50% instead of 15%. You see where I'm coming from?
I do, and again, I don't mind going to revisit something for the board. I have no issue, bring it back to the board next month's meeting, and I can actually take pictures. And we can bring in some samples in here and what we're talking about, what we're taking off these trees and stuff. You know, again, the majority of the trees we're talking about are oak trees. You're talking about another year, a little over a year's worth of growth on these trees, you know, so. Yeah, I mean,
Seeing something more itemized would
Forgive me,
would be
your name
helpful.
is
Scott,
Scott.
Mhm.
So, you're talking about not just that last 15% that was incomplete. You're talking about just looking at all of it again and just addressing all of it. Is that like, it seems like there's, I mean,
No,
85% that was done. Are you including any of that in this proposal?
no, just Pete,
Just
just
the last
showing me the
15%.
trees that were done. I don't know if that number was exactly 50% or not, but
I did.
I-
Whether it is.
I don't know. I don't know. All I did was we go from street to street, looking at each tree,
Okay.
evaluating each tree to, you know, saying how much time it's gonna take to trim each tree and stuff like that.
So yeah,
You
you're
know,
evaluating only what was remaining.
Yes,
Okay.
and obviously I can go in there with full saw trim,
remaining.
you know, tree within 10 or 15 minutes versus using a hand saw, and I'm spending 30 to 45 minutes on a tree with a hand saw.
Okay, I think it's clarifying.
Right.
Make sure we understood you correctly. And,
Well, I also has excuse me, I also have a question, and maybe I'm not understanding this, but we already had a contract for you to do X, Y, and Z work.
Mhm.
You did 85% of it, and gave 85% of the money.
Not complete, 85%. Some of it was
Do you
deducted
still
for.
owe us?
No, I
Well,
don't.
we
no.
Stop the project.
We stopped the project, we paid them 85%, or we gave them credit for 85% of the work done
Uh-huh.
of the contract price. It was 22,000 something, and we gave them credit for. So we gave them credit. $19,040. So we were gonna pay you that, but then we agreed, you and Brett agreed. That there should be a deduction for improper work and the damage to the trees from improper work. And then that was deducted out now.
We agreed after the month, that portion was calculated by, I guess, the CDD board. We didn't know that was gonna happen until we received an email saying, hey, this is what we owe you, but this is what we're deducting for the damaged trees. After discussion with James and myself, we said, okay, we'll just settle like that, but he was not part of the discussion of how much was gonna be withdrawn from the money that was gonna be paid, so I just want to clarify that.
Okay, but that was for damage, not for trees. So at this time, it needs to be done, it definitely is there, but, maybe have them sharpen the pencil and come back, and in the meantime, Brett, we want to reach out to the other two tree folks we talked to and get an estimate from them also.
What proposals are we tabling? 7122?
Well, right, 7185 for sure. We haven't really discussed 7182.
7122 was the
22.
one for the entire, but our folks have already completed all the sycamores. So there's no need for 7122.
At all?
7122 overlaps what would be completed with 7185. So we're discussing that one.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, we could just table number one and number two proposals, which are decide between the two, 7122 or 7185. So if you guys want to look at 7122 also,
Which one is 71? That's
that was for the entire inside tree trim.
Okay, okay.
But again, realize that the sycamores have already been done. There's no work for you to do on it. So that
They have to be deducted.
28 now would be comparable. So if you will go back,
Absolutely, absolutely. I have no issue with that.
So they're being tabled 7122 and 7185.
yes. The next item on the agenda for Cervello is discussion of the palm trimming. And I was concerned about the palm trimming.
Because of the boots left on the trees.
Well, yeah, it's the boots left on the trees and it was really trimmed up tight. And we have a lot of boots. Has that been taken care of yet, Brett? The hanging boots at the swim club. And our folks have not been able to do that because they're quite a ways up in the air.
Now, we do remove boots when we're trimming trees and they fall down. That's part of
Okay.
our debris pickup.
Then, so they've got to actually hit the ground, not hang in place.
Well, I mean, normally when we're up on the tree or something, lean on it, typically your boots fall down. But if you're requesting for boot to be removed, when a boot is sitting on a palm tree, that means it's still attached to that palm tree. So that's going to require additional cuttings for it. I mean, we do palm debooting for multiple communities, but it's not included in the contract. We do it per foot.
This is what was left for us. And those ones that are hanging, they have not dropped down, but they're dangerous to people at the pool. You know, they're hanging on by very little. And the palms are very tightly trimmed up.
Right, again, typically what we do is if they fall down and stuff like that, we pick them up. Sometimes the guys will knock them down if they're very loose. But if they're still hanging like this, it's attached to the trunk of the tree. And so generally you shave up against the trunk of the tree to take them off. Whether you use a handsaw or whether you use a 194 saw, which is a very small saw. You can't use the large ones. It's time consuming. We typically charge, well, any landscape company, they're going to charge for debooting of palm trees. And you can deboot all the way up to 4 feet from the shoot of the palm tree. You do want to keep some boots around it to help the palm.
Yeah,
tree.
no, I have
Yeah.
no trouble. I like to see the
Yeah.
boots on the palm tree personally, but when they hang down like that and become dangerous, I thought that would be part of the.
It's not.
Actually, so. We'll move on. Okay. The U1 and U2 mowing. It was not done completely in the past. And Pete and I were supposed to get together, but I hadn't heard from Pete, so Pete, I made some extra drawings and things to help you out with that. But it's not being completely mowed. We were lucky, the DOT came in and did all of the right of way. This
Can I see the area if you don't mind? I don't know what the area
This
is.
is U1 and U2.
This is U1 and U2. This is the frontage. This is east of Harmony Square. entrance. That's the east part. This is the west part and it goes around, intersects with the stuff.
Right, and it goes through this center right here.
Right, and I put the actual dimensions on here too, so you'll be able to see.
I'm sorry, I don't have the contract on this, but if I'm not
Because there's
mistaken,
only
this
a-
center here is once a month, right? Or something. Your county came in here and started cutting some of the stuff, or twice a month.
Twice a month.
And, but you're only cutting, a small portion here. If you go out and take a look at it, there's only a small strip.
I would like to look at it. Can I get that? Can you send that to me? Oh, perfect. Perfect.
So if you guys can kind of get that down as to what that is.
Okay.
You know,
Absolutely.
it's just a confusion of where those boundaries are.
I know if it's county goes in there, sometimes they mow certain sections of it. Same thing with Enclave. If you see the St. Augustino Enclave, how it's cut very short, well, I actually called Pete because I thought our guys scalped it up. Come to find out, whoever services the Enclave HOA over there, they decided to mow the whole entire entrance and the berm, so it's all scalped up. You got dead grass in it.
Just wonderful.
Thanks.
We'll see if we. can go into that. I would not be using that portion of it. Okay, and watering solutions on clay brick. We had another comment today on clay brick. Part of that grass has died out. You gave us a proposal, but we're still fighting the watering situation. And over the last couple of weeks, I've been watching it.
Mhm.
And actually, I don't think it's watering. We have parents bringing students down to shortcut through to the tunnel. And they're parking along that area and they sit there and idle for hours waiting to pick the kids, or 45 minutes or so waiting to pick the kids up. The kids are traversing the same spots of grass pretty much, and the exhaust from the cars is just.
Now I know what you're talking about. That's right there. So it's where the school, you got
Near
the
the
tunnel and stuff.
tunnel.
Like, yeah, you always have kids up in there. Kids walking through, you got foot traffic, you got cars there, parents standing on the outside. So yeah, that's never, that I recall, has been a water issue on that side there.
So I was just, we're struggling. Is there anything we can do to make that look better other than in the spring?
Yeah, I saw you.
Water it while the kids are trying to walk through it.
There you go.
There you go. Let's get-
Problem solved.
Two birds with one stone.
I like the way you did.
Yeah, the only thing you can do is either rip the turf off, put some type of shrubs in there to keep the kids away from it. Or whatever turf you're gonna put in there, the kids are always gonna walk on it. Unfortunately, it's your family community.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, you hear a lot of people not.
Right.
I guess we may just have to look at that for other ways.
Okay.
That's all I have. Anyone else have anything for Sherelle?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
The meadows, are we gonna
Oh,
discuss that since there
yes.
seems to be an issue about that? I want-
Yes, the
want to
Meadows,
Clear it up.
yeah. The Meadows is scheduled for once a month per contract to be serviced.
Meadows?
For the
For
previous
the previous
contract, right?
contract, yes.
Yeah, not the
For-
one October 1.
No,
Okay.
for the previous one. Now, one thing I will tell you is we have cut that more than one time.
Oh,
in the
yeah, yeah.
past. But yes, on the previous contract, it was slated for one time.
Okay.
So I just want
Yeah.
clarification.
I'm having a little trouble with that because I see it listed and I presume this contract was not a Harmony specific contract originally. I see Meadows listed as once a month,
Mhm.
but on the map that shows the different areas, and never once does it identify anything as Meadows. So.
If I
when went
recall-
through all the contract and saw no
I know,
verbal description.
but if I recall, when we initially bid on the contract itself, we met with the representative at the time, which happened to be Gerhard Egan.
Yeah, it was Gerhard and Steve Berube who actually identified that as the Meadows.
Right.
They called that the Meadows.
So what is the Meadows?
The Meadows is all the flat land on the opposite sides of the park. That's what it was identified from the park where Buck Lake is,
Mhm.
all the way around. That was identified as the Meadows at the time. When we did our initial tour, because I was there on that tour. So, that's what they called it.
So, okay, from the park, when I'm looking at Buck Lake
Is the.
and the Long Pond.
Yeah.
So is it the area
So
around?
directly to the left of the park, going around, it goes all the way around. Yeah, I guess you have the wood line that's over there.
The wood line, and it wraps around, you've got two ponds there, and then you got all the flat lanes right between the two ponds.
Okay,
Are you talking about on the east side, like when you're looking at Buck Lake Park from Cat Briar Trail? On the west side, so that's all park there with
that's all
the,
the walking trail and everything once.
but there's only one pond there.
Now, if you keep going past school.
Oh, at the end of Dark Sky,
Yes,
The only thing
Oh,
I
I-
can do is hold it up.
that's that.
No. These areas through here. I believe
I
that's-
That's an interwalking trails.
That's called the meadows.
Wait, no,
That's a
no.
gas
Sorry,
pipeline.
I'm sorry. Well, that's, yeah, no.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. I was told as well. Yeah, that's what I was told. So, I mean, but it doesn't.
That's called Buck Lake Park.
The new
The new
contract,
contract's
the
different.
new contract doesn't state that, so, you know, something was changed in the contract. So
Okay.
it's 30, I mean, your Bahia is 34 cuts a year. Period.
So it was changed from the previous contract where
Yeah.
it stated the meadows to now the new contract. It doesn't
There's no meadows.
specify meadows. It just says it's part of the Bahia mowing.
Yeah, even back in those days, I mean, previously, we were mowing that almost weekly, even though it was stated once a month. I think those for us to put that on a monthly schedule, we'd be better off than taking a bush hog.
Right.
You guys-
Exactly, that's what I figured.
Right.
It's being mowed so regularly and then all of a sudden it wasn't being mowed regularly.
So what's the issue?
Well, they dropped down. We were getting reports from the homeowners that it was only mowed once during the entire month of September. And they were upset.
Was it only mowed once?
Well, I think it's only
It
from,
was, yeah.
the end of the one pond. It's from the edge near the,
Trail,
butterfly trail, all the way to the walking, where the concrete walking trail starts.
and we were mowing it on a regular basis, but, you know,
So it
we wanted to make sure
was-
the areas that were under contract that we were getting emails about saying, hey, it's not mowed. When we think it really didn't need mowed, so I told Pete, hey, stick to the contract, stick to the contract, just, you know,
And that's what we told them too, by the way, just
yes.
stick to the
And-
contract.
and so
Stick
what's
to
the new contract?
vote.
what, so,
Contract, everything is 30, I think it's 34.
30.
It's 34 cuts. I did. They did it all the time.
So it's weekly for the
Sovereign.
except the dog parks.
The dog.
No, yeah, yes, we know about your dog. park.
The dog-
We got that.
Well, the dog parks fall under the 41 because the most of them are St. Augustine.
Right,
But it says at minimum of 41 to re-inspect. If they need to be mowed more than that, we will. You know, one thing we've always done from the time we picked this up, I mean, I'm gonna use the medicine as an example. We mowed that, we didn't have to mow that, you know, every week. But we did, probably hundreds and hundreds of times throughout this period. You know, maintaining a community like this is, it's a give and take thing. I mean, there's gonna be times if we put our labor in one area, try to, for your benefit, you know, might have to take away from another that doesn't need anything at that point in time, you know? And we, you know, that's any contract that we do, period, but.
So it would be helpful to us as a board and the residents to know when you're doing more than the contract is called for, so that we can appreciate that, because we may not, we won't know that. We
Or
don't
when
know
you're-
that.
Yeah, or when you're not able to do, so if you end up and you're not able to do the whole community or everything that's under the contract 1 week or 1 month, then just sit down with staff and go through and say, okay, and then you guys together can prioritize what gets done and what may have to miss.
I totally agree with that. I mean, that should be happening. And it needs to happen, okay? Back to your point was letting you know when we've done things, we've done that previously, and I've stated that before in previous CDU meetings a while ago with Sparub and when he would question us on things. And we got with Gerhard, and Gerhard even agreed at certain times that, you know, hey, it's in the summertime, we got no rain. It's useless to go out in more of the hair area when you don't need it. So we will focus on areas like the meadows and go ahead and mow it because it's more damp than most in those areas.
Right, so dog parks are 41, not 50.
I thought they were 52 and
Oh, yeah, well, it's just that,
The dog parks, they say they inspect it 50 times a year.
so,
You don't want to mow it 50 times.
well, but here's the thing. In the winter is when this tropical chickweed, which we never had before, is that my microphone making that noise? this tropical chickweed, which we never had before like 3 years ago. That's when it blooms and goes to seed between like November, December, all the way to March, which is when you don't really want to mow. But those seeds are so sticky
I
and
know.
they're terrible. And so that's why we need to mow during that time to keep that stuff down. Because nobody wants to go to the dog parks during that time because their dogs come home just literally hundreds of those seeds stuck in their fur.
Try to pull it off a 160-pound Great Dane. So I know what you're talking about.
Well, your Great Dane has short hair. My Black Quarter Retriever has long hair. that
Yeah, but he's
catches-
that tall, so yeah. I don't know.
So if there's a way to take care of the weed, then we won't need to know. So
Right.
If you guys did it with either a pre-emergent or something to kill it. instead
In
of
the dog
mowing,
park, we have to be careful what we put down because we have dogs there from 6 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. Well, then it has to be posted.
Yeah, well, we do, I mean, we post signs, I mean, you know, and this is, and I'm gonna speak from Florida Department of Agriculture laws, okay? Our job as an applicator is to post a sign with time, date, applicator initials. That is our requirement, okay, by law. You know, this is what I found through being in this industry for 30 years. People don't look at a sign. They don't care.
Right,
They
that's
take,
right.
they take their dog in there and then their dog, something, they have an allergic reaction to something, and then they try to call us and they get nowhere with it.
But
because-
trust me, if you let us know what you're gonna do, it will put a chain on it
Right.
with a big sign, not both times. So just let us know, communicate with
Yeah.
us, we'll make sure the dogs are safe and that.
Yeah, we can do that. We
Okay.
we can definitely do that. What we'll do is we'll notify Pete and.
And we've got 2 dog parks now in different locations, so we can alternate. some-
Three.
alternate.
3.
Well, I mean, 2 locations for dogs.
And Teresa, I'm glad you brought this up, and I'm talking about like what gets done and what doesn't get done. That is what I would like to see if we have situations like that, it is gonna be all about communication. Because, you know, regardless whether we have our crew on site mowing or doing trimming, spraying weeds, they're gonna be. You know, we're dedicated to this job, we have been since we started it. You know, I'm not gonna say it's always been perfect, you know, I mean, just like we've heard, it has ups and downs, I mean. But I will say, the previous vendor, I have pictures of what this place looked like. You couldn't see the shrubs in this place, and I know there's 1 or 2 people in this room who were here when I first got here, and they know exactly what I'm talking about. So, you know, we want to continue to improve. When we bid this, we bid it for some extra man hours too. You know, obviously, there was stuff, a lot of property taken away. You know, through the whole Steve Fusilier thing, and then there was stuff that happened back in. I mean, it was
Now we gotta
kind
clean
of
it
chaotic and crazy,
Right.
and we worked around it. But we did, you know, coming into this new contract, and we did add man hours to this agreement. And, you know, it should make an impact over the period of time. You know, and that's our goal, is to do it that way.
Wonderful. We look forward to our irrigation water bills going down and our weedless landscape.
Yeah, one thing I did, just to keep you in the loop, I reached out to our MaxiCom guy, to schedule a visit out here. Apparently, MaxiCom, when it's turned on, it's operating 5 or 6 clocks on its own. So we have to look more into that, and I'll keep you in the loop as to when we can schedule that, and maybe get inside the trailer there and have them look at it and go through it.
What about the enclave?
Couldn't do it because of the issue with the MaxiCom system right now. So once,
Still running the same old bar.
yes, but you do-
split the zone between about 2 meters and the HOA has a clock, the other clock.
yes, they do. So.
Any further questions or discussion? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I look forward to getting some renderings on rejuvenating the landscape. That's-
I can go ahead and do that. Absolutely. I get working on that.
We have 20-year-old.
open up my time, you guys.
We have 20-year-old landscape.
with Brett and
Need some love.
Angel. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, next item on our agenda, the staff reports. We have the field manager up first.
Before they start, you have in front of you, the chairman requested moving forward that field manager and district manager provide a written report to be placed into the agenda. That way, if you don't get to those items, if you run short on time, the written reports are in there and you will have them to refer to. So in there is an example of a field report that Vincent put together. Obviously, after leaving a meeting, his field report will be based off of things that came out of this meeting, tasks that he's assigned to do or requests that the board has asked to do, things of that nature. So that's in front of you. It did not get into the agenda. So just wanted you to see that. Yes, ma'am.
So previously, we were showing a spreadsheet. I like that because all this says is item
No,
1,
that-
item 2, but we don't
That's
even
in
know what
your-
those items
Yeah,
are.
that's in your site audit. I'm talking about the second one you have in your hand, Carol, that one.
Yeah, okay, but these things can be put in the spreadsheet,
Sure.
so we can
He
see
has all
what's.
that on his tracking and actually they're gonna talk about when and what they're gonna share with the board. You can start seeing those documents live.
And we discussed this, the report I'm looking for is more of a report on items like today would be the question about the landscape issues and the lights. You know, what's going on with those, or what's happening with the fans at the swim club, things, you know, vent fans at the swim club. Things that have been ongoing issues that we just need a little more information about than just a spreadsheet. Does that make sense? And that way, you know, an update on the Polaris, what's happening with it, have we gotten money back on it? You know, just updates like that, so that we don't have to have an extended verbal report when we get to it. We can read it, understand it, and be ready to ask questions about that issue. So we'll look forward to seeing that.
Yep, and I can give you the real quick update on the Polaris and the UMAX. The UMAX first. Yamaha still hasn't given us a delivery date. I reached out to John Armstrong again. He hasn't responded back. That was earlier this week, so about every mid-month I'm reaching out. Last update I got was waiting on Yamaha to provide a ship date. This time I didn't get an update. So
Does Yamaha have a governmental entity like Polaris does?
I think we talked about going through that in the past, and I think we stayed away from that. When we got a quote, I think we saw the quote that we got from the whatever the vendor was that we got the quote from, and then we looked at it versus the governmental quote that we got, and it was like a couple $100 difference. So we just said move forward with the quote we had.
These are electric, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we can get gas.
The gas is more available.
Okay.
Like, we checked on Kawasaki mules. And even then, when I asked for the quote, they're like, well, I can't give you a quote because we don't have any on the lot. And we have to give you a quote based off of serial numbers that are on the lots. The guy has reached out since then saying, hey, I've got a shipment coming in, but I know that the idea is electric here. So we've already placed the order for the UMAX. It's just, when is it gonna get delivered is the question. So that's the update there. The update on Polaris, we do have good news. And then still question mark. The good news is they were able to go back and look at the warranty claim on the transmission that took place, and that's for Joe and Dane, but they are going to issue credit back for the warranty repair or what wasn't warranted on the Polaris prior that was done by Kissimmee Motorsports.
That was what, 20.
That's 2,900 or 2,800, something like that, I believe. In discussion with Polaris or Yamaha, we found out that we were actually shouldn't even have been sending it to Kissimmee Motorsports. And Kissimmee Motorsports should have directed us to a different vendor because it was a governmental purchase Polaris. Right, not a Yamaha. So I'm gonna get them confused for a second. Sorry. This was all prior, so you know this was all taking place before Vincent, before me, where these services were being sent to the wrong vendor. So Kissimmee Motorsports did take advantage, it sounds like a little bit. The question mark is still the engine. It sounds like they're, as of right now, it sounds like they're not gonna budge on the engine. What it sounds like. I did follow up and say, again, where's the documentation that you said that there was oil leaking from the muffler? given back to us because he doesn't have anything, I don't have anything. When you look at their invoices, there is no notes saying oil's leaking, so we're not the mechanics of Polaris. You know, it's like me, Dan asking me to diagnose a computer. I'm like, okay, I have no idea what you want me to do, right? So that's my confusion, but Polaris isn't really budging right now. I mean, they said they're gonna take care of the warranty. They're getting the warranty paperwork from Kissimmee to send over. Once we get that, we should be issued a credit. I will follow back up with the gentleman from Polaris and see where that's at.
And to replace the Polaris engine,
Oh boy, that quote was a while ago. I want to say it was
6,000.
7, if I'm not mistaken. Around that, and I can go dig those back up again, but I don't remember because we moved on.
So the question is, do we want to invest the money into a new engine for the Polaris, or do we want to wait and get a different type of vehicle for replacement?
Well, some of the discussion we had earlier too was the Polaris was used to pull the old pressure washing rig, which is no longer needed. We have the new pressure washing rig, which is much lighter. So the UMAX that we have and the UMAX that hopefully one day will get here soon would be enough to pull. Aside from that, you still need, you have the Polaris, the CVD truck.
And the UMax.
I'm sorry, not the Polaris. You have the UMAX, the CVD truck, your truck. We would be getting another Polaris, so that would be 3 vehicles on site. Probably still need one more. So if you replace the Polaris engine, that would be your 4th vehicle, which would.
The other question I have is do we need UTVs for everything we do, or would a golf cart with a bed work?
Which I got quotes for those as well. We provided those in the past. I think it was a club car. I did have some additional stuff on like a weed eater rack and stuff like this. So stuff's not bouncing around on the cart, it falls out. It was more expensive, and it was closer to 15 or 16 when you put, like, I had safety lights on it and the bed. Again, you're using these vehicles on roadways, right? So I was trying to make sure it was a safe public. We can take some of the bells and whistles off and maybe go aftermarket, which is completely fine, but I figured,
Not the seatbelts.
no, the seatbelts have.
Aftermarket seatbelts.
Mm,
I'm just kidding.
But I can revisit those. I even looked, Global Turf, which does a lot of resale of golf course equipment, you know, whether it's old club cars that you see superintendents running around on, you know, we can go used. But the supply on those is really slim as well, you know, so Global Turf out of San Antonio, Dade City area. It's a
I'll
lot of
let you-
refurb, so,
Let you bring us back a number of options.
yeah,
Can we include the gas vehicle in those options?
sure.
I'm just curious.
You know, I was just gonna ask the same thing. I mean, I know electric
It's
is,
nice. What kind of electric?
electric bills going up and up and up. so.
Well, so it's not a charge, it's all batteries, so you're not plugging them in like a
Oh.
golf cart, you know, at your house, these are actual. Like batteries, like a Prius in a sense, or an EV,
So
that you're not plugging
Hybrid.
in, it's, no, they're literally big, deep cell batteries. That you just, when the engine's running, it's charging itself.
Oh,
interesting.
Yeah. The UMAX works that way, we don't have to plug it in to charge.
oh, okay.
We do plug it in to charge, okay, I lied, we do plug it in. to
I
charge.
was like, wait a minute, that
That
doesn't
was-
really make sense.
Basically,
Not enough gas,
you
you
know.
gotta charge. Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't know that. I mean, I'm looking at it and you're reading the specs on it, and it doesn't say anything about plugging, it's talking about batteries.
Basically, it's plug in, but it's very strong, how about the deep cycle batteries
Yeah, real deep.
is, you know,
Six of them in there.
that's 6 them. And so basically for one day, doing the whole day working, you know, nonstop, working in different areas in Harmony. But need to be
Charged.
plugged in every afternoon.
And the maintenance costs are significantly less, right? So you're not buying fuel, you're not having to get oil changes, you're not having to worry about timing belts as much, brake, I mean, there's brakes, don't get me wrong, there's brakes on them, but
No break.
you're not going as quick and there's not as much wear and tear on an EV versus a UMAX or like
How
a
much are the
Kawasaki
batteries?
wheel.
I can see the appeal.
I don't know how much does the battery cost? We haven't had to replace one yet that I'm aware of.
No, yeah.
I think they're $100 for a deep
Yeah.
cycle.
Well, these are
Yeah, golf cart.
Big.
Recycles.
Yeah, it's the finance.
Well, I need to battery my golf cart and $1,100.
What?
Tough to say, it's not.
They're not cheap.
Yeah, that's-
It's not like buying a deep cycle for a boat.
It's-
Well, I have a golf cart that has 6 batteries in it and it cost me about 700 something bucks.
Well, that was 5 years ago, 1,100 now.
Yeah.
But they lasted 5 years, so.
I'll let Vincent
Gas
run,
and
run through
electric
this
for
real quick. He put it together. So on top of the spreadsheet that we provided in the past, project spreadsheet, I know we are looking into, you and I had a conversation about the one share drive, the one, right, the OneDrive.
Right,
The OneDrive that, so you all have Microsoft email accounts. There is no OneDrive associated to those Microsoft email accounts. So we have to either purchase a OneDrive account or we go with a Dropbox, right? So what we're trying to dig in and figure out, maybe Dan, you're the guy to ask, I don't know. We're trying to figure out, like, there's different levels of the Dropbox. So there's one that has like 3 users, and the users would be like Angel, me, Vincent, where we can put stuff in and then distribute the link to you all, so you can see that updated.
We can
project
view, but we
list,
can't
right?
edit.
Viewers,
Exactly.
right.
We can do one, which I think is free. I just don't know how much storage we're gonna get out of it. I don't know how, like, then we'll have to send stuff to Vincent. So again, there's options. But we have everything ready to go. We have SOP manuals, we have the project list, we have
Contract.
contracts. I have Vincent putting together basically his days. So you'll see, like, on his first or second bullet point piece there, where he talks about the second page, where he talks about number of phone calls and emails and cards that he does a month, because I think that's important for you all to see, because I've done a card here. It's not an easy process. We have another district where a resident comes in, there's a database with everybody's address, they come in, they verify, they hit a couple buttons and a card prints out. Here it's picture, you have to print the picture, you have to upload this to this computer, move it to this computer, access to each one of these. It's
Very inefficient.
it's a 30-minute per family process, for almost per card process. So I'm not saying we need to fix it right now, but I think that does take some of Vince's time. When you take, I think there was 30 something cards, he did 32.
Yeah,
So, you're looking at 15,
that was a lower amount, because I was.
16 hours of his month was tied up basically to ID cards. So,
now, the ID cards, when the folks that rent here in the community have to renew them, do you have to go through that whole process?
Yeah.
again? Is there a way?
no,
No,
you don't have to do that.
No.
No, he goes into the end date inside Dorking and
Okay,
changes,
and they just
renews
change.
yeah,
So
renews.
it's not like the.
No, you're not
Yeah,
issuing a
well-
new card. No.
Only if they need a replacement. or
Correct.
something.
Right.
Yeah. Now,
place-
If it's a new renter and the old renter moved out with their cards, then it's issued. Yeah. But it's helpful because I'll give you an example. Dave and I were out doing stormwater check on all the drains. And we walked into Vincent's office, we had a question for him. 25 minutes, he was on the phone with a resident. And he was, it was actually about dog poop in their yard, and he was explaining, we don't pick that up, we don't. And they kept asking, well, what about, more dog stations? And I'm going, oh my God, we got 83 of them, how many more do you want, But we sat in there, David, 25 minutes, waiting for him, and he was on the phone before we got in there, so, there is some time that is taken out of his day dealing with customers and residents, sorry, not customers. But I think it's good for you all to see, and we'll share this stuff and we'll update the monthly field report, but he's tracking a lot of things for us for your benefit. And I think that once we get this one cloud drive Dropbox set up, it'll be very, very
Let's-
helpful.
Let's.
I'm gonna go with just the generic Dropbox and see how it works.
And then if we need to upgrade it,
Absolutely.
let's get it on with.
How about Google?
I like Dropbox. I have trouble with Google because I have a Google email, a Gmail address, and it's always trying to,
Verification codes.
I can never get in.
Dropbox is pretty easy to use and we'll- yeah, we can always look at different options, but oh, go ahead, Vincent, go through just real high level, talk about sidewalk grindings, talk about,
Well,
that stuff.
you
If you
know, all
want, you don't.
Okay, question, is the sidewalk project that we're paying $65,000 for finished?
Correct. It
It's
is done.
finished?
Everything that was marked on the map that we provided to them is done.
Okay, I still have seen some green lines and orange lines that
We had no green markings.
I still see green markings.
No, we didn't apply the green markings.
We don't
I
know.
understand.
I
That's-
can
that's-
explain
yeah.
that. That was initial, that was one day marking for grinding process. That was made by me, but we already did. That was in the dock part, in the cut dryer. So my God, all of our guys, of field staff, they already grinded those areas. But not for replacement, that was for grinding.
I understand, but I'm still seeing green marks.
Because he's going out and marking more areas to grind.
Well, there are some just.
Where you have a specific area. where-
Everything that the board approved on the map to be replaced has been replaced and it is done. Everything that
Not-
this board approved to be replaced,
I'm not talking about replacement, really. I'm
but
talking.
that's what she's talking about, the panel replacement job for
I
65.
can tell you
and up.
this, that we
Right.
had, I think in the proposal, there was 800 and something grinds, 811, if I'm not mistaken. We did close to 910 grinds and only invoiced for 811. So if there are some that were missed, field staff can handle them. But I know we went way past 811 because these guys were out there and they're like, well, here's another one, or someone would come out and say, can you touch this one? They did 900, and I think 912 or 913 grinds is what Freddie tabulated, because we were checking. But again, there's a couple that they need to touch up still, or still there. We'll go out. We'll take them.
Well, as long as I know that everything that you had in the contract is finished, because there are some panel replacements that absolutely need to be done in Barnes. So we will start reporting those to you, so that.
I just wanted to point out the grinds that I've seen that looked wonderful. I've been really impressed with how smooth that
We
is.
changed the process.
I
and
appreciate it.
If I can real quick, because they're new to the board. They used to use a scarifier and it left it real rough.
Yeah.
Now they're using hand grinders, and making it real smooth, so it's not it looks better, it finishes better, and it makes the sidewalks not look.
And
Like
less
a
than
bear.
one, too.
I'm great. It looks nice. It's good.
Okay, so, yeah, each little items of the number, we can look at the spreadsheet on instead of having a report, and then with the written report, then all the update for like the flares and stuff will be in the report. Then the board can just ask questions.
Yeah, it'll be a joint report, then, he'll add his stuff and I'll put anything that's on my plate in.
Sounds good. Okay. At this time, if there's no further questions, generally we'll go to the proposals. The first proposal is for the vent fan system for the swim club bathhouse.
You have a third one that was delivered. Yes. Yeah, it was delivered the day before your initial meeting, so that's why I didn't get in the agenda packet, so I printed off for us, so you have 3 to review.
I move to accept Access Air's proposal for $7,200.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
The motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'll just say that Eric Farnsworth is very well known in the community for his excellent work. He also happens to be the lowest bidder. So to me, it's a no-brainer.
I agree.
I know he's done a lot of work. I was looking at, I saw the picture of the timer switch, and it definitely needs to be replaced. And Heavenly Pool Heating had 7,300, which included the calendar dial timer switch. So I was leaning in that direction. Hawkins is much higher. Any further discussion on the motion?
Is the switch something that field services could replace in the future if we determined we needed to, or?
Oh, I'm
No,
telling
we
you.
need an electrician. Nope. Okay.
I wouldn't want the guys up there messing.
It's okay.
Is that something that Eric could add on to his bid
Or, yeah, we can,
and do?
I mean, they haven't been working for so long. If we tabled it for another month, it's, we're going into winter now anyway, so.
You want us to ask Eric if he'll, if it's included in his price, maybe it is, and he just didn't.
The board can also authorize a not to exceed, so we can move forward with it. Or you can bring it back
What?
I like that.
A not to exceed.
Yeah.
Of-
Because it would
well,
add-
So that would bring, if we use Heavenly Cooling and Heating's price for that switch, they're charging $300.
Mhm.
So that would bring him to 7,500, so he'd be the middle bidder. So do we want to say not to exceed $300
For the switch,
Yeah.
yes.
in addition?
Yeah, that looks about right for, I mean,
Okay.
commercially, they're available in the,
So the
between 2 and
question is,
300, so.
I guess the question would be, if he cannot provide it for $300 or less, then would you want to go ahead and go with Heavenly Cooling?
Well, we could make it simpler and just ask Eric to meet Evan's bid when he gets it. 7,300, including the switch. Or the, the calendar.
I'm fine with sticking with access air and authorizing not to exceed for $300 on that.
Yeah.
Especially if you feel pretty confident about certification of community. And
Yeah,
this
I think
year-
just about everybody in this room,
Yeah.
well, who's a
Yeah.
resident can speak.
And
to
the thing is, he has a vested interest in doing a good job as far as
Yes.
I know. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, I'm not interested in haggling over $200 for,
Yeah, and I don't think, I don't think he would he would refuse to put in the switch.
Okay, so you want to amend your motion to,
So I move to approve Access Air's quote for $7,200 with an additional not to exceed of $300 for a calendar dial tap switch and installation of
I
that.
think it's
Second.
second.
I,
I was gonna ask if the second.
Only
accepted the
figuratively.
amendment, but that works. too.
Okay.
All right, so I have a motion by Carol Castle, a second by Dane Short. For Access Air to install 5, to obtain and install 5 vent fans for the swim club bathhouse. In addition, it would be an additional $300 of his $7,200 bid or quote. Not to exceed $300 to add on a calendar dial time switch. For a total of $7,500. Any discussion?
A total of not to exceed $7,500. I think we already discussed.
Okay, no discussion. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Before we move on, Mike, do you want this proposal to do an agreement on, or is it okay to move forward with just the proposal?
I think that we would at least need an addendum on the proposal because there are certain things that Florida law requires to be in every contract.
Okay.
So we'll get you something and I've got it on my list of follow-up items. If you all see me looking away and everything, it's because I'm writing down whatever follow-up that we have to do.
Perfect.
I
I'll
can't
get the
even see you.
proposal Over to you.
Oh, good.
Oh, there you
I
go.
mean, I see where he is, but I can't really see him because it's sideways.
We'll reach out and ask if his current price includes the switch
Yes.
first.
That's
Yes.
a good start.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That is certainly what we had mentioned that.
Okay. Skis, there's a splash pad pump and installation. It was determined that our splash pads, the problem was the pump, the impeller has been wearing badly. And is almost unable to pump water anymore, so recommendations to replace that pump and our splash pad should be back up and running. We only got one quote to date for $8,992. That's from Steve's. Steel Services has reached out to 5 vendors.
5 including space.
Including and have not gotten any additional quotes back. So they asked us to approve the $89.92 as a not to exceed. And then if they get lower bids, then they could go with a lower. But this does need to be fixed. It's been out of commission for months.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the replacement of the pump in the splash pad at a not to exceed price of $89.92. Vendor to be determined. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none.
I'll assume that's the same, Mike.
Yes,
Thank you.
The items below, don't need board action. They fall within $2,500. So they move forward and gone ahead and authorized the two lower bids, I presume. The one for 867.93 and the other for 822.49. This will repair the two electrical major electrical issues we have at both the dog park gazebo and the Buckland Park electrical box, which is totally rusted out.
I already called him, so we're gonna call the next week.
Oh, wonderful.
Great.
Right. So, any other questions of civil services at this time?
No, looking forward to that updated project list and spreadsheet and on Dropbox.
Wonderful. I do want to give kudos to field services. But for the work that you did with our engineer David on maintaining stormwater system that hadn't been maintained for what, 20 years?
Well, it wasn't entirely not maintained. I mean,
Well-
we had the county, the developer paid the county to come in and vacuum out our storm drains
At one point.
several times, actually.
Well, the county maintains the lines under the street and they can, but the overgrown breaks
Mhm.
and inlets and everything.
Yeah, that was-
Real. So we thank you for all the work you did in keeping us safe during the storm. We only have the one point that had any storm water in areas where, excuse me, it shouldn't have been and was a safety hazard, and that was up on the drain, near maintenance, golf maintenance. Road. Have we heard anything more from the county on?
Roads and bridges come out. doing that.
Yeah,
So they've been out.
They've
to
acted.
clean that?
yeah, they came about the 5 East.
Mhm.
Right.
And because, sorry, is, I don't remember, it's Ryan is living here in Harmony. So basically he came, we have a meeting in the 5 East, close to the new dog park. And he already came for,
Have they cleaned that?
yeah.
Okay, so now next heavy rain, we'll know
See,
whether that's,
see how it performs.
or whether we need.
Correct.
Oh, I already, report foreground plays you told me about. They're supposedly gonna come, no, I don't know, this week or the next week.
Okay.
Yeah,
Are
already.
we doing those? There were two other inlets that did not cause street flooding, but were just backed up to the very edge. So the county's coming to hopefully vacuum those two out. They were across the street from where Cordgrass intersects with 5 Oaks. There are two storm drains just across that street near our wetland area there that were just on the edge of flowing back in.
Mm.
And we had a record rainfall. We had well over 12 inches. Our lake level is higher than it's ever been in recorded history. Is that right? At 72 feet. So you can imagine the flooding we could have had if those rains hadn't been.
Actually, I'm sorry, before the hurricane, I sent the field staff to clean up the entrance of the drainage. So basically,
On the street.
yeah, the throughout Harmony.
Mhm.
Well, actually now we need to do it again. Yeah,
Yeah, now,
but actually that about this actually helped, in the process of the rains.
wonderful.
Just a quick, sorry, just a quick question. I got a call from a resident who saw a turtle underneath the storm grate with babies. And I thought, and she's like, can you remove the grate so they can get out? And I'm like, well, the grate's there so nobody falls in.
Well,
They perished, unfortunately.
Yeah, there were 5 or 6 of them.
that was part turtles and one fish.
Yeah, one bass, one large,
Oh.
which I don't know how bass died. And water.
So we'll spend 2 days figuring out how we can remove the rake.
Great.
And we use the big tractor to remove it, and finally we remove this.
Okay, so you got the.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's
water
not-
went down, nothing to-
It just sounds like they got in there in the flow, pushed to the top, and then that's.
So we're gonna be talking to our engineer about turtle excluder devices.
Okay.
All right, anything else from field services? Thank you, gentlemen, appreciate it. District engineer.
Yeah, that's there.
It's not mine.
He's gonna talk about turkey. Yeah, it's warm for you, David, they're good, but.
Not me.
Growing a beard.
It's Hurricane Ian beard. I had no power for 5 days.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah,
We barely even blinked.
I know you, I
Incredibly.
heard the good news for you guys, but yeah,
Sorry.
it's all good. All right, want to do the estates first or the milling and resurfacing?
Estates.
Okay. So there are two elements with the estates.
Working on it.
Yep, it's the colorful aerial one would be the first one that has all the text boxes and
Figure 3.
yes.
Oh, no, the estates, exhibit 1. The wrong thing.
No, that's the other figure. Sorry about that, Dan.
All right. We'll get there.
That's it.
Okay.
So there were two elements to look at. One is the maintenance related, to which we had the cameras run through the pipes. We have identified a bunch of joint repairs, pipe repairs. So the yellow is the CDD open space, if you want to call it, between the houses and behind the houses. I think the pink was some drainage easements, and then we highlighted and annotated all the observations regarding infiltration at the joints and at the pipes throughout the community. You're going to get a hard copy of this after the meeting. It was supposed to be before the meeting, but somebody visited Florida for a few days, and so we're
Somebody named Ian?
pardon?
Somebody
Yeah,
named
some
Ian?
big guy, yeah, so. So of the 8 pipe segments and the 7 drainage structures that were cleaned and inspected, we identified several joint repairs, crack pipes that need to be done as far as pipes that separated too much. We got a bid from Atlantic Pipe Services to do the pressure grouting and slip lining. And that cost is roughly $85,000, which includes dewatering because the groundwater is so high if they were to do it today, and then we added to that what I would call additional maintenance work, which is putting riprap or rock around all the 14 drain structures because they're covering up so quickly with vegetation, not to mention horrible contractors who leave their stuff all over the place, flying everywhere. And at the upper left-hand corner, when they put the fence in, whoever installed the fence, put the post through all the pipes. So the pipe is punctured the entire length.
Yeah.
So that, if I can point to it, it'd be easier.
Red line there.
One right here. So when they put the fence in, you would think after they hit it once, they would know something's underground, but they continue the entire length. So
Sure,
instead of
it's a
ripping up
separate-
that pipe, we're also proposing to reconnect that inlet heading east and tie into another inlet. So adding some pipe and doing that work as well. So all the maintenance related repairs, including a 20% contingency, because some people are not holding their prices now more than 15 days and not knowing when you're going to do the work. The whole thing, soup to nuts, is $165,000. And this is strictly maintenance, not.
Not correct.
It's the 75,000 from Atlantic Pipe Services, another 40,000 for redoing a new pipe. Then we threw in contingency, dewatering, and the whole thing, which will be outlined in the memo, is $165,000. Now, nobody's flooding because of it, so I don't think it's an immediate need. But all that happens is dirt from the top will be continued to go from the surface in the pipe, and so you'll start seeing little baby sinkholes, and they'll just, it'll be problematic, but nobody's at risk at this point from a flooding issue.
Right,
But-
there was no flooding. The worst I heard a report from was where the fence goes through the pipe. It came up maybe 14 inches on the back fence, but nowhere near the home. Even the other home that gets water around it.
Yeah, the gables.
Yeah, it all stayed pretty much in the common areas and came up just a little bit, but those common areas, unfortunately, with the design they have, are gonna
We're
hold.
gonna hold water. We're gonna get to that in a second. So I'm gonna have that all written up. I'll give it to Angel and then for Mark to distribute after the meeting. Again, I don't think it's a high priority, but since we're trying to tackle our aging or compromised infrastructure, the in-states has been on the radar for quite a while. And so just to plant that seed, it's 165,000 for another future stormwater CIP project.
And is there any like state funding that we can get for that?
Not for maintenance, unfortunately. They-
So when it's all maintenance, none of it is replacement.
Yeah,
And probably no recourse on the fence, damage.
if you want to knock on the guy's door and find out who their contractor was, I'm sure Brad would like to do that and see who. Now the flip side of that has been the chronic complaints about water in the backyards, mostly from the gables, but some other areas as well. So we did look into them. That's the other map, Dan, if you can pull that up. It may not show as nicely, but so the green areas, that funny green area is the lower lying land. The sherbert, if you want to call it, is where their houses are at or the graded lots. And where the gables are, again, I hate to stand up and point to it, but
Can you stand up so we can see? Because your body's in the way of us. Sorry.
other side.
Laser pointer.
He needs to recharge. it. He has
On
allergies.
the screen.
Oh.
So right here is where the gables live, and you can see how the lower area kind of wraps around their house. And the inlet behind their house is the worst of all the inlets in the community. Whereas when Lake Buck gets too high, it backs up to the bleed down pipe, it fills up our ponds, and it expresses itself in their backyard. So. And we're gonna get to the lake level graph in a second. So these two are the lowest in the entire community. And so when the lake is at its highest level like it is now, the water from the lake will back up all the way to here and it's got nowhere to go. So us pumping it to a nearby inlet does nothing, it just kind of recirculates.
You said entire community, just the estates or all of Harmony?
Just the estates. Just the estates is compromised by those two low areas. So. Again, I don't think there's a justification other than a big inconvenience primarily for this one homeowner regarding, you'd have to fill the area in and then you're getting to killing the trees to fill the hole in so the water doesn't go around the house, which kind of defeats the whole purpose, I guess, when they designed this in the first place to maintain some undeveloped treed area. But or we can look at putting a flat gate at the end of the pipe, so when the lake gets really high, it doesn't back up, and then the water in the ponds have to give even higher to push it out into the lake. And so it's just, this will always be an Achilles heel for the community, but it's not high enough to flooding in these houses or garage. It's just more of a nuisance that gets close to their planting area, their landscape area as well.
Yeah, well, it's a mosquito haven and
Oh, I know, I've never been chewed up alive more than I do when I go to the States.
Right.
So,
and also poisonous snakes, cottonmouths.
the last one, Dan, is the graph, the lake. Mike's in the way here. Oh, got rid of Mike. All right, so anytime Lake Buck gets above 70,
Buck Lake.
Buck Lake is above 70, it backs up into our stormwater system, into our ponds, and eventually into that gentleman's backyard. So you can see where Ian got to, which is up to 72, which means there was 2 extra feet of water from the lake into our ponds, which again went to the low area. This was Irma. 2008 was Faye. I'm not sure about the 2011 storm that you guys got here that got so high, but this one is the highest, at least from 2008 to the present. I didn't go any further back because I don't think you all developed them. But so when that happens, quite unfortunate, the lake begins to recede. The ponds will be full, but again, nobody's at risk of flooding. Unlike the presentation we had this morning where we had 40 homes underwater. So in another community. So you guys did get spared a bad situation. So So that's updating the estates. I can't recommend anything at this point for the other nuisance problem. Unless it becomes really problematic and you guys might consider filling that low area and displacing that volume somewhere else within that open space. Any questions on the estates before we move to the alleyways or?
I have one question with this graph. If you look for the past 12 months, now we've have had 12-month periods that are relatively that high, but it's been going back down and getting back down. We've noticed that the dock in front of our boats, our canoes and kayaks, has been spending a lot more time underwater. So it appears, and this may confirm it, that Buck Lake has been consistently higher than it has been.
We had a above average wet July, above average wet August. We actually had above wet August, September before we even got Ian. So yes, these lakes tend to be more problematic when you have several months of above average rainfall. And that was the case that you guys are entering. Thank goodness you're able to absorb the elevated lake levels plus even on top of it.
Yeah, the only problem we're gonna have, we need to watch this lake level. If it remains high consistently, we may need to do something with that dock and boat storage area. Because right now, it's very difficult to access. Because it's underwater. I mean, just 2 days ago, it was under about 4 feet of water. I couldn't go back there with my pants in the Nikes, they get flooded. So that's a real issue, but we need to watch that closely.
Okay.
So,
Any other
quick,
questions?
well, yeah, quick question along those lines. So, the Buck Lake, it, ultimately drains out to Alligator Lake. There's that, canal that basically runs out through the, there's a pond back there and then under 192. Anytime I've looked, it's been flowing under 192, it's definitely got a good boil going to it, but especially after a storm, it seemed to back up a lot in the kind of the buffer area, which is just outside the CDD boundary and on developer property. But still, that's obviously the direct drainage for all of our water system. If there's any kind of maintenance need of whether it's weed removal or something like that for keeping that drainage structure that's maybe outside the CDD but directly impacts the CDD, is that something we would need to pursue through South Florida Water Management System?
South Florida, yeah.
Okay.
They're regulating these lakes and the Tahoe system, the Kissimmee River chain of lakes, so.
Okay. All right, and so, and as in like, just, would it be like an inspection of like everything is in, good working order or that all?
Yeah, when things recede down, if you want to give them a little tickler in the winter time, when things kind of taper down and maybe do some maintenance before the next wet season. Okay.
It appears at least 1 or 2 of those pipes. And the growth probably, we probably need to get a drag on.
Yeah, when the pipe that was going under the pipeline there, it was stagnant, even before the storm. So, yeah. All right, thanks.
All right. Based on your district attorney's advice, I want to say 2 meetings ago that since we had a no submittal bid advertisement for the milling and resurfacing, the CDD was then allowed to call a contractor to request a bid instead of re-advertising again. So the first document was Greg, my guy's estimate back in March for the work plus alternative A, which was adding drainage, and B, adding the ribbon curb to the edge of the alleyway. His estimate at that time was basically $515,000 back in March. Today, we received the proposal and contract from Carr and Collier, which we've dealt with on many occasions. And their bid came in today with all the alternatives at roughly $650,000, which actually I was pleasantly surprised because we've been seeing more than double the engineer's estimates last couple, well, I want to say the last year. So it's still higher. I'm not to dismiss the 100,000. I was expecting a surprise like $1 million, but so they did submit, and whether or not the board wants to consider it later tonight or next month after we have time to go through the bid document and give it to Mike as well to review, but they did fill out the paperwork. And actually, I was just looking for a quote or a bid, and they actually went one step further and used Greg's bid documents and filled it out with some minimal information, references and things like that. They give us a legit bid for the milling resurfacing for neighborhoods C1 and C2.
I propose we table this to the next meeting.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to table to the next meeting so that the board
We
can.
don't need to vote on it. According to Angel, we don't need to vote to table.
Table everything.
Okay. Then we'll table it.
Just table it.
If the board members will review this in depth during the interim so that we can come back, because we are having some pretty significant potholes starting to open up. And
It'll
although,
be in the agenda, won't it?
yes, and although the field staff have been patching the potholes, they keep sinking, the patches keep sinking down. So that's not taking.
I have one question. There will be a quick turnaround between now and your next
Next
meeting because we're on the regular schedule. So do you want that in that meeting or do you want it in your?
No, the next
November?
October.
Oh, yeah, at the end of the month. Okay.
Okay.
We should, that we've got everything we need.
Yeah, we always do the typical background checks and make sure all the math is added up and right. But yeah, we'll make a recommendation as part of our report for next meeting. And then of course you can vote on it and decide to table it again or proceed forward finally with the construction. So
This is the package I can put in the agenda.
yes, the smaller sheet is Greg's estimate from March and the bigger, thicker one that says proposal is the official. Yep. If you want a PDF copy, Angel, I'll definitely give that to you as well.
How long is this good?
I haven't even looked yet, I'll be honest. It came right off the printer. So
If it's 15 days.
the 15 days had to do with
Okay.
the slip lining and joint repairs for the estates.
120, it says.
Okay.
Perfect.
Oh, no, sorry, that's period of performance.
Okay, so
All right.
that's
Yeah.
table.
And last thing is Garden Road. There was some talk maybe to have Junior Davis provide some gravel. I'm not sure if that became a viable option or if they declined. But I guess circling back on what the direction the board would like to do to maybe, I would say, put some lipstick on it to make it more drivable, or you want to do something more robust as originally planned for its future use, but.
So we were told that the Garden Road was going to be reworked a bit by whoever was constructing neighborhood M after they were done with their infrastructure work.
Neighborhood,
And neighborhood M is to the right of the Garden Road.
right, there's no proposals at all to develop that at this point.
I thought it was going to be Junior Davis cleaning up their
Well-
mess after running the.
They're not in neighborhood in.
Harmony
that
Central.
is Harmony Central.
Yeah.
And yes, they have dropped off. Three dump truck loads of cement or grind.
Fines, fines.
Mhm. And so I presume as soon as they recover from the storm too, that they will be there to spread them and grade the road.
Backtrack.
Mhm.
Have they restored the ripped up area for water line yet? Or is that still unsodded and ungraded?
It's
You know,
still
when
unsodded
Okay.
and it did flood. It's quite into the lake. Mhm.
And we could probably like Brett, talk about Junior Davis before we kind of go
Okay.
down. I would just
Sure.
want to make sure it's actually happening.
I've spoken with Thomas from Junior Davis,
Mhm.
and asked about the regrading of Garden Road. The concrete millings that were dropped off are actually not for Garden Road. From what we're being told, from what Vincent was told, but
Okay.
Thomas from Junior Davis said he's waiting, I've called 3 times now, we've spoken 3 times. Asked when it's gonna take place, he said that he's working with his grading department when they're, wherever they're at, when they're done, they're going to come grade. That's all he said. Now, he hasn't given me a date. I said, can you give me a date? I'm still working on the schedule, but I keep getting, so I've got his number. I'll keep calling him and following up.
The concrete fines.
Mhm.
What, did they say what they're for? Because they're on our property.
Actually, yesterday they were working, spraying, cooking inside of the area under construction.
They're moving them inside the area that's under construction.
In Harmony Central.
So they're using our property as storage for their material?
Which we can get changed.
Yes.
We thought it was getting dropped to be used on ours.
That's-
Yeah.
So we'll find out from them. I'll go with Thomas
So
now.
maybe he thought he could do that, being that he was gonna grade the Garden Road for free.
I will-
So
Well,
he
it was
may-
an
I
exchange.
just want you- Yeah, and just clarify that.
It was in exchange for an easement, not for an easement for a small
I
square.
will, I'll reach out to Thomas tomorrow, let him know like, hey,
Yeah.
they're not using the fines for Garden Road, and they need to be stored somewhere else. And then give me an update on when Garden Road's gonna be graded, please.
Right, because we did not give them permission to use our garden road and everything for all of the construction on that into their development.
Yeah. 'cause
That
I
was not
Garden
the
Road there.
exchange.
I didn't see, I was gonna ask you, I didn't see the concrete, I'm like, that's a piles of mulch, but that's not concrete. So, I'll. call.
Okay, yeah. If he wants to grade it now and then grade it after they're finished. But they've got to grade it right away if they wouldn't even consider us letting them use that area for storage. How's that? And
Thank
got-
you, Dan, for doing.
So I think we'll wait until,
Okay.
it sounds like what we're gonna do is we're gonna have them do what they will do. And then after that, we'll see what condition the Garden Road is in
Okay.
and how long it lasts. And if we need to take more action, then we'll visit it. then.
All right.
Does that
And,
sound right?
Yes, but understand that Garden Road is nearly impassable. And
We get
it is-
nothing but complaints from
it-
diners that will not drive their vehicles.
Okay, thank you. That's, it is horrible. I tried it with my high women's vehicle and not very much. And it is unacceptable.
That concludes my presentation, so thank you.
Oh, are you okay?
Hmm.
Something landed on the ground. Something landed on the ground.
Oh, this one, no.
Oh.
That is budget.
Okay, at this time,
It's one of the chains.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Oh, it broke.
well, what's that? At this time, hearing no action on the district engineers report, we'll move on to the district council report.
There is one more thing in
Oh,
David's
sorry.
report. No, I'm sorry. Is his. Not really a proposal, it's just kind of a statement, right, about the budget for 23.
Well, that's if you guys want to renew me for this fiscal year. So
Yeah.
that was a new business I thought, so.
Typically, whenever you move into the new budget cycle, which started October 1, it renews your council, your management, and your engineer. So that's what is in here. Unless there's somebody wants to do something different, then I would just ask you to release it and sign it. And all it says basically that he'll continue working and you guys providing a budget in the line item.
Okay, that's under the new business. Okay, so do you want to deal with that now or?
Sure, our budget line item is
60,000.
60,000 and that's the amount. So I move to approve this proposal,
Authorize.
to authorize. the proposal.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second to authorize the chair to sign the proposal to continue our district engineer into this new budget year. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing no opposition, passed unanimously. And get that off.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, David, my brain like got new business. Like, engineer rate.
His mind went blank for something else.
Moving on, we have the district council. Do you have anything to report for us today?
I do. I have a few items to report and then just a couple questions that hopefully you all can help me with. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good, thank you. First of all, just want to let the board know I did request public documents from Tim Qualls' firm. All I've received so far are emails from March of 2022 on, and with a representation that they would keep looking for any public documents that the district manager does not already have. So I'll follow up on that maybe one more time and then report back to the board at the next meeting, and the board can decide whether or not it's worth me pursuing getting the additional public records from them that I'm sure that they have, but have not produced yet. Second issue that I wanted to talk to the board about is just the issue that came up today in relation to the pipe damage. Does anybody have any idea when that occurred, when that fence would have been installed?
The house has been there. The house has been there a couple of years at this point.
Okay, well, I just want to say I've had this issue come up before. And a lot of times we've been able to track the fence company, as well as the homeowner when it was installed, and been able to recover either from the fence company directly or from the homeowner's insurance that's applicable on the lot, because I'm guessing this pipe is in a CDD easement, and it's a responsibility of every homeowner not to place a fence in a district easement in such a way that damages district property. So that is something that could be looked at if the board wants us to do that. So that's that item, and I can follow up with Angel afterwards if there's anything for me to do there. The third thing is we've been working on a revised disciplinary and enforcement rule dealing with amenities when we've had damage at amenities and we've had suspensions. That's something we're working on for some other clients. I'm happy to provide a copy of that document if the board wants to review it. You haven't been billed for any time related to that, and you wouldn't be unless you wanted to look at it and then modify it. But we've run into a lot of issues where we've suspended people for, say, 90 days for violating the rules or for damaging our property. And the example comes to mind is we suspended some minors for 6 months. They caused $6,000 worth of damage to a playground. And now the minors are allowed to come back in and use the facilities and have paid no restitution payments to the district whatsoever. So the rest of the residents in the community have had to pay for that damage. And so we're trying to address some of those loopholes. And so my question to the board would be, are you all happy with what you have now, or would you like to see a copy of what we've been working on?
I personally would love to see a copy of what you have so we can review it, compare it to what we have now. Later on, we're going to be talking about under the, I think it's new business, the need for amending and just going through our rules all together. So yes, please, if we could see that, that would be wonderful.
Okay, I'll just send it out to the board once we finalize it internally, but it'll probably be 2-3 weeks before we can get our group of attorneys to sign off on it. And then the fourth thing that I just wanted to let the board know is that Wes Haber, who you have not met yet, other than his name and photograph being in the proposal, I'm going to have Wes attend the October meeting at the end of the month. So you all get to meet him, and he will be attending the pre-meeting phone call that Infomark will be orchestrating so that he's up to speed on whatever issues come before you. And I've been taking notes, and there's a couple proposals I need to provide addendums to Angel, and I'll follow up with her after the meeting. But other than that, I don't have anything further to report. And at least from my perspective, this has worked quite well with me participating by Zoom, but certainly I defer to the boards and how you want me to participate moving forward, and how you'd like Wes to participate in October.
Great, thank you. Any of the board members have any questions of District Legal Counsel?
No, just to comment on his last remark, I'm fine with Zoom. It's saving us a good deal of money. We're trying to be fiscally responsible. So, I don't really see any substantial reason to be here in person and pay more when, we can hear and see you just fine on Zoom. At least that's my opinion.
I agree with Carol.
Thank you.
And I'm in agreement, it seems to be working very well, so long as you can hear all of our discussion and ready to break in if need be, if we need to be proud.
Yeah, I can hear very well. The audio setup, whoever's doing that's doing a great job.
Thank you, Dan.
I do have a little issue though, because I'm just mesmerized by his hat.
On
Sitting on
that's
that
the most
I know.
stylish lamp I've ever seen.
Yeah, I just got that in New Orleans, about a month ago. So,
Thank you, Mike.
thank you.
All right, we'll move forward then to the district manager's report.
So as I stated earlier, you'll start seeing a report starting at the end of the month, in your agenda. The other thing I sent out, hopefully everyone got, was the CDD SOP.
Yeah.
I put a copy in front of you. So I met with the chair. There's really no, we have standard procedures that we do at Inverpark, obviously. Teresa wanted to meet, we met, and she wanted to kind of develop just a short SOP. And so that's what you see before you. The only thing I will say is I did talk to Brenda, who's gonna be doing your minutes. And which she's at a performance tonight, so she's not on the call. But if the board does approve this SOP, she's asking to move this 14 days prior to the meeting for draft minutes, because your meeting is the last Thursday of the month, which would only give her 7 days to get those minutes produced and out to the chairman.
Well, we have, perhaps this has been happening, apparently it's been happening since Teresa became chair, but never before this has it been that the chair sees the agenda for the rest of the board. I'm not entirely comfortable with that idea. I think the board should all see the agenda at the same time and then provide feedback to Infomark. And if Infomark wants to send that feedback to all of the board members, whether it's corrections to the minutes or whatever it happens to be, I would prefer that we all saw it at the same time, and then we can provide any review, amendment, whatever to Infomark. And so maybe if we can get it 10 days prior to the meeting, that gives us a little more time to get any revisions or suggested amendments to Brenda or whomever, and for them to then make those corrections and get back to us what was suggested in terms of amendments or revisions, so that by the time the agenda is published online, it has been reviewed by the whole board and revisions have been reviewed as well.
Okay, based off of your comment, we can do the 10 days prior to the meeting, agenda due. And we can put, instead of chairman, to put board for review.
And again, that's my feeling about it. We,
Has there been a problem?
well, it just, because we're the full board, if somebody, the chair gets to see them first before we get to see them and makes corrections before we get to see what those corrections are from Infomark, I'm just not that comfortable.
You mean to the minutes?
Whether it's to the minutes or whatever else may happen in the agenda.
The problem we're having with the minutes, and again, we probably need to deal with this today and actually take a vote. The minutes we've been getting were an attempted near verbatim with all the ums and ahs and everything taken out. Those coming in that would be sent to the board or published in the agenda package.
We're very
We're
broad.
atrocious.
Yes, but now we have Brenda doing it.
Let's,
Okay, sorry.
the new minutes that Brenda put out for these last two meetings are much improved, but not verbatim. Okay. So there is a little nuance there. When it was verbatim and I was reviewing them, there was not, it shouldn't have been a problem because it was verbatim. I was sitting down with the recording and going over word by word by word and correcting all those incorrect words or names or anything. Now, if the board wants to stay with the revised and not do a near verbatim, this is still, they're very good minutes. I like them
They're
better.
very
than-
close to verbatim.
very, I like them much better than the near verbatim. Because the near verbatim were very difficult.
The virtually verbatim. This is near,
Right.
now what we have. from
This is a
Brenda is near
detailed.
near
they're
verbatim.
Yeah, they're detailed minutes. that would also, if we want to vote tonight to change from the near verbatim to the detailed minutes that Brenda has presented for the last two meetings that were in your agenda package today. Then what we can do is that will save us money in that we will not have to pay the extra fee for the near verbatim minutes, which we're taking both Angel and Christy and myself an enormous amount of time.
I've mentioned it several meetings. I mean, you're
Right.
talking 16 hours that it was to do these. And then I even went to a company, had a company do them. You guys didn't like the company, you know, because they listened to the recording and they couldn't hear talking over and and it was all in.
Yeah, it was a nightmare.
Brenda's
So,
minutes are awesome.
so if the board wants to change that, and at this point, I would entertain a motion to change from the previous near verbatim to the current detailed minutes that we've received for July and August, that side. I would definitely entertain that motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, in making this change, something I've been asking past couple of months is on what would be involved in terms of record keeping. A service that would have the capacity to, you know, let us post the videos that are already being recorded of the meetings. So in terms of what
Okay.
we, you know, what
That's kind of separate.
I know it's a separate
It's-
issue,
Through video
but there,
that's out there, celebration use, that they store all of, on there. We don't store them for celebration.
right, and maybe Mike can chime in. Our understanding from previous council was that any video that was posted will be subject to all of the record keeping requirements.
If you post it on your website, it will be subject to ADA, which is closed caption and all of that.
Right, and so in the case of, you know, Zoom already does the recording and it could, you know, we wouldn't be hosting it, you know, it could be posted on a, you know, service like a YouTube or something like that.
Yeah,
I,
that you could ask Mike, he's on.
right,
I don't
so
know about YouTube.
I mean, no, it's a separate issue, but
Yeah.
it's,
Can we take this vote and then go right to them?
okay.
Okay, so as far as the actual written minutes. Any comments on the change from the basically near verbatim, which were extremely cumbersome to now this very detailed?
I'm completely comfortable with that pending the next conversation.
Anybody else?
Fine.
Okay, at this point, I'll call a question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
So what are you trying to accomplish? Let me understand that part.
So right now, if anyone, a board member or resident wants to, you know, review what happened at the meeting, they can do a records request. And we have
Get
the,
the audio.
right, and that's, and from the beginning of the setup, we, you know, the capability is there to, you know, Zoom already records the meeting, so we can pull the video or the audio from that.
Mhm.
And in terms of making it available to the public, you know, posting something to say YouTube and, you know, can be annotated with, you know, here's the, you know, item by item, you know, here's, you know, at 20 minutes in here where we talked about this, you know, I've, you know, the capabilities there, and I'm willing to, you know, do a little bit of extra work to I guess facilitate that, as long as in doing so, we're not in violation of any of the record keeping
So
requirements.
where are you wanting, who are you wanting to post it? Is my first question, and where are you wanting to post it?
It would be posted to YouTube. I mean, there's a you know, video, you know, posting service.
Okay,
If I don't know if in doing that, it then becomes subject to the specific legal requirements for.
yeah, Mike would definitely have to answer that. I thought it was more something you wanted Infomark to do. We don't store video. It's too large.
Right.
We do have some districts, only one that I'm aware of. Celebration does film there the same way. They don't post it on the website. If a resident wants to come, I mean, it's the same as audio, so we really have no one that requests the video. They just do it, because they can get the audio. But if they do, then they go to Vimeo, which is
Mhm.
what Celebration pays for.
Mhm.
And they take their little USB stick and they download it and that's it. Infomark doesn't really have anything to do with it. So YouTube, that would be my question, if it still needs to be ADA compatible. I know for your website, it definitely does, but I don't know about YouTube.
So Mike, could you chime in, please?
I can, yeah, I'm sorry, I was just waiting for a break. So a couple different things on what you're talking about. First of all, if the district is keeping a recording of this, that is going to be a public record. And if there's a video on it, it's going to be a public record. And even if the district wasn't keeping a copy of it, and Zoom was maintaining a copy of it, it's still a public record. And that Zoom would have to produce that. And that's under the NCAA Florida State case that came about probably about 5 or 6 years ago in Tallahassee. And so certainly Angel is exactly right. If you're going to post it on your website, you're going to have to make it ADA accessible, which means that you're going to have the closed captioning. If you're posting it to YouTube, that's a little bit of a gray area because that's not the website that you all control. However, one of the things that we've always, wondered about is if you have somebody that comes in and says, I want to see the video, and the district has that, do you have to make it ADA compatible for them to view it after the fact? And so that's another issue that's raised, by either posting it on the district's website or at YouTube. So I'm surprised that Zoom at this point hasn't come up with a closed captioning capability, but certainly that's something that we could look at, and it would eliminate all those arguments if there's a way to do that.
Right, and yeah, I know YouTube, when you post something, it's able to be transcribed and you can just turn it on for a video you're watching.
Right. So I do have some districts that do post the videos to YouTube. We've not had any issues with that in the past, but just understand that there could be some times where you'd have to, figure out how to arrange for closed captioning and for people to be able to access it. And if anybody ever objected at that point, you could pull it if you needed to.
Right, so one follow-up question. So if we are already going through this process of generating detailed minutes where through the entire length of the meeting, this person said this person said that, we are already generating that. Do we think that meets, in your interpretation, do you think that could meet that requirement for a textual transcript of the meeting?
I don't think it's the transcript, and I never liked the concept of a transcript because nobody ever does a transcript unless we've got litigation. I think it's going to be close. And honestly, if you watch closed captioning when live TV is going on, it's probably going to be closer and better. But I don't think you could represent it as, this is the actual language that was used at the meeting. It would have to somehow be a summary that you're providing with the disclosure.
Okay.
So I can follow up with Angel on that. And I think it's worth looking at, some of the best practices of, maybe some of the larger districts who are already doing this and how are they dealing with like the YouTube issues and things like that. And I'll reach out to my partners and find out, what they've been doing on this issue, because it's not an uncommon issue.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, just quick background, Mike. I mean, for the Zoom meetings, we have, anywhere from 2 or 3 up to a dozen people might join in depending on what's being discussed. Before I was on the board, I would show up at the meetings and I would just, stream the meetings myself as a resident.
Right.
And there was definitely a lot of engagement with, people that maybe weren't able to attend. So it's always been something that's kind of on the background, something that, would like to provide if we're able to, dot our T's and cross our I's.
Yeah, and believe it or not, I mean, it's actually easier for somebody who's not on the board to do that because you're not subject to the different laws and restrictions that we are. You can just go do that. And the law on that, as long as you're not disrupting the meeting, record away.
Keenly aware.
Yeah.
Well, I do have a question here on this ADA. So if a person can go on Zoom and watch our meeting, listen to our meeting and see our meeting, why do we also have to make it ADA compliant if we set it somewhere else? They have the opportunity to record it themselves.
It's text to speech. Someone could be hard of hearing and,
Right.
And we've had requests where people show up at meetings, they have a hard time hearing. We have to treat that as an ADA, so the speaker and, sound system, we have to.
Right, but they have the same opportunity to record the Zoom meeting and listen to it with their volume up I don't understand why we have to,
It's a district's responsibility to provide those different mechanisms in order for different
Right.
people to be able to attend, view, hear.
Yeah.
It would be the same as they do a records request and, they can't hear, they can physically come to the office. We make every availability. So that's kind
A
of.
person could be completely.
well, I mean, I understand that part, but why, if we put it on YouTube, do we have to go the extra mile? Because they have other ways to get it.
District.
Quick question.
Mhm.
So could the board, not the board, but some random
Residents,
resident or viewer record what we're doing now and they themselves put it up on?
yeah,
YouTube?
that's what.
I was
they were
doing that as a resident.
I,
before, yeah.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is instead of us as the board and the
Yes.
CDD trying to provide it, could,
Somebody who's not a board member do
Right.
that. Yeah, that's what Dan was just saying.
right, but yeah. But that would get us out. of it. We
Yes.
wouldn't have to do the
Yes.
work and everything. else. So would that satisfy what you're trying to? get to?
The whole purpose is making what we do accessible to everybody.
So it's a yes.
So either way, okay, I might be able to find a resident.
Well, I don't think we should direct them, I think.
No,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
correct that,
right.
but I'm sure there are people out there.
Well, if they wanted to badly enough, they'd already be
Nothing's,
doing
yeah,
it.
nothing's been stopping them.
They just want to complain after the fact, not be proactive. I'm sorry.
So, anyway.
That's gonna be in the minutes now, isn't it?
So is there a resolution or are you going to wait for the final?
Yeah, I'll wait if there's,
Mike and I will discuss it and then I'll be able to hand down what we discussed to the board. And let you know.
That sounds. Next item on the agenda.
So
Oh, I'm sorry. Mike, did you have anything else?
It was district manager's report. He was done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, it's my fault.
that's okay. So you've been trying to come with it. It's great. Got that moving forward. I'll let Brenda know. The second part is this SOP. So that was Carol's input. Does anyone else have any input?
About who gets what when, in terms of the minutes.
To give you a little backstory, and this was set into place well before I came onto this board. Infomark's general policy is we do everything, it goes into the agenda, it goes out to the board 7 days in advance. And then if there's any corrections, amendments, or what have you, it comes back to us, we make those revisions. We address it at the meeting and you approve minutes as amended or those types of things. So I do have several districts that have their own SOP that they have established. So that is what Teresa and I sat down to do. So we're bringing it before you to see what kind of changes, revisions, thoughts, comments that you have.
So as I had suggested before, 10 days before the whole board gets the agenda package with the minutes, et cetera, we have a few days to get back to Infomark in order to provide feedback on it. And then they'll distribute that to us and then it can be posted to the website.
Yep.
7 days.
I'm fine with 10 days. My issue just has been when receiving the files to post on the website. Usually I have to go through and make a, I mean, the program does it itself, but still takes maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes, depending on the volume of the minutes, just to make everything, again, text readable for ADA reasons. It should be possible when they're generated to have that done. So that's, and now if I need to talk with Christy about that, but that it's just would be time saving on.
We don't have the capability to make anything. What are you talking about, ADA compliant?
OCR. Just so when something gets scanned in, it's just there as a picture. And where all the rest of the documents, someone could do a text search or use a screen reader or something for, ADA reasons. Doing an OCR, which Acrobat does it, Nitro, any PDF authoring software should be able to do it, would just take the picture of the text and make it searchable text. And everything that's on the website is supposed to be text
Should
readable
be.
like that.
And that's why Infomark doesn't do the websites, third party do them, because we don't.
Okay.
We don't do, and we don't want to be responsible for it,
Got it.
but I will talk to Christie and see what we can do to make it a little easier.
Okay.
You know, absolutely have that conversation.
Now, if we're going to get the packages out to the board 10 days prior to the meeting, then we
It's
need,
not the package, it would be the
oh, I'm
actual.
sorry, I thought.
Yeah, well, because she's saying, we're saying package, but everybody,
Minutes.
all the vendors and stuff, information backup is due to us 10 days before the meeting. Then I would send not the whole package, just the agenda and the minutes to the chair. Review, oh, we want this on the agenda, this, or, you know, however. So what would come to all of you 10 days before would be the agenda page. Make sure what we have on the agenda is what everybody wants, or if you want revisions to it, or what have you, in the minutes. That's what we're talking about. You won't necessarily get the full package, because sometimes if we're waiting on
Yeah, I mean,
someone to send in
That's
backup,
fine.
we may not get that until
Yeah.
after 10 days, you know, but prior to the 7th, if that makes sense. Yes, like the sheet Mr. Short just held up.
This one?
Yeah, well,
That
no.
one.
Oh,
They just get
Yes.
like.
So if that works, it would be 10 days, but understand it would just be the meeting page and the minutes.
The agenda page and then,
Correct,
right, it won't be all the back,
okay,
because that would cause us to do the whole process.
right, yeah,
right,
and that's less to review anyway.
correct.
Okay, so 10 days prior to the meeting. The minutes and the draft minutes.
And the draft
and the
agenda.
Draft agenda.
And then so what gets changed is the first two lines here, 14 days and draft
Comes
minutes to the
off.
chairman come off. And then the next 10 days, agenda due to board to
Mhm.
review, agenda and minutes due to the board to review.
Correct.
Okay,
And then.
I did a little different. I made the first one 10 days prior, draft minutes and agenda to the board for review. We also need to keep the 10 days prior to the meeting, all agenda backup.
Due to implement.
Mhm.
Let's
That
make
stays.
sure we keep that.
And all the vendors already
Mhm.
are aware. of that. And then the rest, can stay. The pre-meeting call, for the rest of the board's knowledge, what I typically do, and I'm sure Mike probably has this in other districts as well, is if there's stuff on the agenda we need a pre-meeting call about, we have a pre-meeting call. It's usually, management, chairman, if council or engineer need to be involved there because there's something on the agenda that has come up or needs to be discussed. Administrative field, you know, people that don't need to be on the call, then won't be on the call. So that's all that is.
And no board members participate in that call?
No.
I see.
And we don't have to have that call. That's just something I do with my districts, just to make sure, and if anything comes out of that call, then it would be distributed to the board. If there's anything, you know, necessary that the rest of the board needs to be aware of, anything like that.
Supplemental information.
Correct. That's all that call is for. And then the rest, the one day after meeting is my meeting summary, that you would have it on that Friday. It also includes Brett's field recap, or Benson's field recap, and that's what that is.
And that will include like assignments so that people know what they're expecting.
Yep.
Okay, do we have to vote on?
I would like you to, so what I'm gonna do is type up as amended, and that way it can go in the file, and that way if somebody comes in behind me or somebody's gone, they can see exactly
Right.
what is,
Okay.
what Harmony needs.
Okay, I know you did it differently, but I think it's cleaner if we just delete the first two lines and we add agenda and draft minutes to board to review, and then the rest stays the same.
Okay.
Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Is that okay with you all? So moved.
And I hope you guys read on.
I do.
It's a lot of work and,
I think you do.
so. Be sure to ask for the recording so you can make sure that what you're proposing as a change to the minutes is accurate as to what actually happened.
Well, I request that Brenda check.
Okay, Mr. Peck. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adopt as amended.
I already moved.
I will.
Oh, I'm sorry. Second, all in favor?
I,
Aye. All opposed, hearing none, motion passes.
The last thing.
Joe had.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, whatever happened to the minutes on the sheet?
so it's, I said, so we're gonna get rid of these two
Right.
lines and then the next line under here, 10 days prior to the meeting, agenda and minutes due to board.
Oh, you added minutes to that line.
Yes,
I didn't say that.
I did.
Oh, I
Do,
understood.
do understand that if you're gonna propose changes to the minutes before they go in the package, you need to get them in immediately. So, you'll have like a day to do it. Because it needs. to
have
be-
3 days.
Well, 3 days, but you have to get them in a little earlier so they can process it, set it up, get it in order and get it to Dan in time that Dan can have time to post it on.
Stop us if we're, we're running too far ahead with something. Yeah.
I was gonna refuse on the vote, but I wasn't sure what to do. So still
You did
learning-
great.
Still learning my way.
All right.
The last thing I have is your audit engagement letter. It's standard. I don't know, Mike, if you have anything you want to add, it's standard burger and tunes, engagement.
That's on the business.
We still have subsection
discussion of
6C.
RV lot.
Discussion of what?
Discussion of RV lot. We have a cost analysis in here again. We need a decision as to whether to close down the RV storage lot. If we don't do the very expensive work to bring it up to county standards, we need to stay in compliance and close it down.
Well, has the county required us to close it down?
The county has said, yes, it's not a proper use unless you have the proper site planning and approvals and everything. We are currently running in violation of county ordinance.
So have we received, I haven't seen any documentation from the county requesting that we close it down.
They are assuming we're moving forward with improving the road and putting up the chain link fence and putting up the shrubbery to.
But that was with, if we were going to be improving it by expanding it.
No, not expanding it any at all.
I never saw any kind of documentation saying that we had to do any of that work with the existing RV lot. Only if we were going to be enlarging it as had been proposed prior to this time.
I will be glad to get back to the records and provide that. Again, it will be so, there are 3 things that I'd like everybody to think about and deal with at the next meeting. If I can prove to Carol Castles that we have to close it down. We need a decision on whether to close it down or expend the money, which is approximately $500,000 to bring it up to county standards. If we don't invest that money in bringing it up to county standards, we're gonna have to close it down and decide whether to stop leasing and allow people's current leases, and we'll have to get, hopefully, inquiring further if I have to, the county won't trigger an immediate action. But think about the options. Allowing the people with leases to continue until their leases end. I think we only have, 27 people in there at this point in time. And most of them will be closing out their leases by within 6 months.
How many spaces do we have?
We really don't have spaces because it's just a dirt lot.
Is it pretty full now?
No.
I would suggest we table this because it's already after, it's almost 8:15. I would suggest we table discussion on this until we have some kind of documentation without calling the county. Without calling the county that they expect us to close it down, that there's some expectation, because that's not my understanding of what has happened. My understanding is, we went to them and said, we want to enlarge it. And they said, well, if you want to enlarge it, you have to do this, this, and this.
No, they
And-
didn't know it was down there at all. But I will provide you with all that documentation, going through with Mr. Baru.
If you're tabling it, is it again, this
Yeah.
agenda coming up?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. This
This
is
one?
done.
Okay. And then, well, we'll deal with that when we table it, but about the $8,800 we've already paid out to straight line fencing. We'll deal with that next month. New business matters, burgers and tunes. This is our auditor. We have a standard fee locked in for it this year, may change next year. $4,400. They're asking us to provide authorization for the chair to sign the engagement letter.
Move to authorize the chair signing the engagement letter with Burger Tubes for our audit.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second? I'll second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. We've already dealt with our district engineer proposal. The next item is discussion of a donation of a Royal Point Sienna tree. Nancy Snyder has offered this tree to us. It's approximately 2.5 years of age. I don't think Nancy's on, as she is in the islands, helping a sick friend. But she has donated, is approximately 6 feet tall. And there had been some discussion. She had asked if possible, if it could be planted across the creek from the school, so that when it blooms into color, it would be a huge show of color for the school and they could enjoy it. We do have a spot there where we had to kill off some coven grass. So that might be a good spot to plant it instead of having to resod that area.
Very gracious to make the offer. My only concern is that depending on the variety, seeds, leaves can be very toxic.
Okay.
So if we were to accept the donation, I might want to put it somewhere where it's less likely that any messiness is going to be sort of more part of the environment and less in a manicured area, and where people walking dogs aren't going to be, the dogs aren't going to grab a seed and chew on it. Because if it's right across the school, right in that area
Yeah,
there,
it's a walking area.
it's a very much a walking area. So I think it's a lovely offer, and I'd like to see it somewhere where its downsides could be managed better. So we can ask her if that's okay with her, and if so, we can.
She
pinpoint-
wasn't locked in
Okay,
on this, on the actual location, so if you would recommend the location.
okay, I'll think about it.
Any discussion or? we will
Yes,
move
October.
on to-
October.
Yep.
Fine.
This next item is discussion of removal of concrete pads around the oak tree in the pocket park. In Primrose Willow Bear Grass Schoolhouse Alley Triangle. These concrete pads that make a circle around the oak tree are very uneven. And if we pull them up and replace them, I think they're gonna find that we're gonna be constantly fighting it. There was a proposal provided by Infomart to remove all of the panels in the circular area around the tree. And to cut the sidewalk edge and then to mulch it for $1,080. When I looked at it, it looked like 4 or 5, we could possibly just remove the semicircle.
On the backside of the tree, because
Right, that's
people
not
walk,
the-
people walk, including myself,
Mhm.
very frequently, walk up that, around the tree and back out to the other side of the alley.
Mhm.
So to have just mulch there, it's gonna be, we're just gonna be walking across mulch, which is, I mean, when it's dark out, it's uneven footing. And so I would like to see at least some of those panels remain, the panels that are adjacent to the two sidewalks that lead from the one side of the alley to the other side of the alley, and we can take out the other ones. and
That
then
are
we can-
between the tree and the bench.
Yeah,
Those
so.
are the even ones, and they are not being uprooted or upheaved by the others.
And regardless, it'll be, yeah, just a lesser maintenance issue going forward. So
Right.
that makes sense.
So just keep the ones around the bench side of the tree where it goes from the sidewalk that comes from this side of the alley. Can,
Basically, those panels that look at and what come out would be what would come out,
those look like all the panels.
that encircle. the tree.
It's 9 of them.
Well,
Yeah, but the point is, people use the ones on the inside of the tree next to the bench and the doggy pot to go to the doggy pot, to sit on the bench, to walk their dogs or themselves around the tree to get
Those
to the
we
other side of
saved.
the alley.
Essentially, can they be saved, ground, whatever?
So we could take out the ones that are on this side, so that, that are on this side.
yeah. I
The
think it's
pocket
4 or
park,
5
right,
panels.
the teardrop side, the pointy side of the teardrop of that park.
Keep behind the tree.
Between the tree and the bench, keep those that are nice and even and level. Take the ones.
So there
on
are,
the
there are
upper-
two sidewalks that go from the
Okay. I
north
think-
side
I
of
think
the
we can
alley
use
and the
them
south side
and
of it.
describe it. and we
Yes.
can get a new proposal.
Can you get close into that?
October?
That's
It's on the October agenda.
Yeah, all right.
We want to just maintain the sidewalk connection.
Yeah, fully. But we can take out what's
Yep.
around
I
the,
think we'll.
So it will
understand.
come back to us on the October agenda.
okay.
Informational signs, we will wait an hour. I don't know if you want to deal with this. They are.
People are complaining about them.
Very messy.
Mhm.
We made some recommendations, Supervisor Castle and myself had made some suggestions. Also found something called awesome HOA signs. They have an interchangeable system where you can actually put up a message. So I would recommend on the first 2 signs at the entrance to the community, so we can put announcements. We've been putting up little yard signs with taped up single sheets of paper to announce meetings. And maybe we could say just welcome to Harmony, and then it could say, meeting for the HROA on this date, or the Ashley Park HOA on this date and time. And that can be changed out. So since it's a late hour, I'll be glad to bring or have included in the agenda package some information about that interchangeable sign. Have we gotten any cost estimates from as to how much it would cost to review these signs?
We don't know what we're redoing them to. Cost estimates, but no, y'all haven't provided.
Just a general cost estimate, that it's a adhesive that sticks on. Isn't that right, Carol?
I believe so.
Right, where we're not saying it's the structure of the sign that needs to be
Yeah,
replaced.
Yeah,
just-
we're just gonna
Yeah.
peel off the existing, so take a
So-
look at this. Let's see how
Yeah,
they're,
yeah.
yeah, so we'll peel that off and replace it with something. Thank you for staying.
Yeah. Hey, Vincent, if you can get pricing on adhesive without knowing what's going to go on it. and-
Yeah, just a general idea.
Well-
No, I don't.
So-
have any flashing lights.
I have a couple questions regarding these signs. I drove around a little bit today, look at some of these. It looks like some of them, their primary purpose was to point at,
Yes.
where buildings were.
Right.
So maybe some of these are redundant. Maybe some of these would just flat out be removed.
Well, but if what we don't have signs to are a lot of the things, facilities
School.
that that residents might want to use or visitors might want to use. For example, the swim clubs or the dog parks or Lakeshore Park or anything like that. I like Supervisor Kramer's suggestions, except I don't think we should include the golf course and I don't think we should include the lakes because they're communities. If you include the lakes, we should include all the neighborhoods, and that's too many signs. So I suggest we don't include the golf course because that's somebody's commercial property, and that we don't include the lakes. But all the rest of them, yes, I think are fine because we're directing people to CBD facilities.
I think the sign should only be the CBD facilities also.
Do the CBD facilities have an address, physical address?
Don't-
So like if somebody reserves Buckley Park for a park.
I don't think it has a number.
It's a physical address.
So then how much is this really needed?
Because of technology today and the ability to see things on Google Maps. or
You-
Apple Maps.
But what about Marilyn? Is she gonna do that, right?
Right.
You know, is Joe gonna do that? Am I gonna do that?
I like the question.
You have to do is tell Siri where you want to go on your phone or Google.
Yeah, but who's gonna know what the address is of Buckley Park? They're just gonna know Buckley Park.
But it'll come out. If you tell Siri you want Buck Lake Park, she'll make you.
Oh, yeah, ask her right now. I'm
My
just-
phone is turned on.
How about we table this and
I think this again.
All right, I'll take it for
Next meeting.
One thing I'll just add into the discussion, all of these signs have the old developer's website, which has not been maintained or updated, or I think it just doesn't exist anymore for several years now. I assume there's no interest in, I mean, would we want to maybe have the CDD website on there? It's maybe a little
I-
longer, a little more.
I think we should, at least the entry signs. Again, we can put different messages. We
Right.
don't have to have them all directional.
Oh, sure.
So again, I would encourage others of the group to
Okay.
write up some proposals and send them in. and
Well, what I was
we may
getting,
have to have a workshop this time.
Yeah, no, I was looking at all this afternoon and I was, but my golf cart battery is dead. So that's why I didn't want to do this.
Great, full circle. Oh, what I was bringing up was, is there, I mean, I assume there's probably no interest in seeing if that domain were available to just have that, you know, basically take over that and have that become do we think there's any issue with that? Any
Are you
motivation?
asking me?
Yeah, could you
The-
check,
the-
what is the?
Harmony Florida, Harmony FL, no, harmonyflorida.com.
HarmonyFlorida.com. Can you investigate, see if that domain's open?
If it is, the district wants to purchase it.
I'm just asking the question.
It might
If
be a
it's-
good idea, since that was the historic one for the district.
Yeah, it can be forwarded to Harmony CBD, yeah.
I will look into it.
Yeah,
Get
this is,
your ideas about the signs. If not, we'll bring it back next week and I'll provide information about the interchange.
You're taking.
Um, Angel, this is Mike Eckert. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting somebody, but, and maybe I missed it, so I'm sorry if I did. Did we go over the tri-party succession agreement?
I apologize.
Exactly what I just said, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks.
We had a couple of different things we skipped over.
Yeah.
My apologies. One was discussing amending the rules and fees. If everyone, since we have a new attorney on, there are some questions about our rules and fees. I don't know if our attorney has had a chance to look over those rules. But the one fee we definitely need to adjust is for our access cards, because we are losing money every access card we produce. So if we're going into a rulemaking process, it makes sense to do it all at once. Is that not correct, Mike?
Yes, that is correct. You might as well just do it all at once for all your rules of procedure, amenity rules, whatever you're ready to address, you should cover. It'll save you money on advertisements.
Okay, so, The rules are on our website, and I think, did you include them in the new supervisor's package, Mike?
I believe we did.
So if you could just review over those and start putting together, we'll probably need to workshop these if we're gonna do kind of an extensive, we'll review what Mike provides us with as far as the disciplinary and enforcement for amenity rules. And then bring that back and have a discussion on that. Any comments on that issue?
What are we bringing this out?
I think November.
Yeah, November would probably be good. Give people plenty of time to look over those rules, give Mike and his crew time to get the other one out to us.
Perfect.
Discussion of staffing for holidays. I don't know if anybody has any ideas of this. The only thought was our boats are totally shut down on holidays. I've only had one contact about this, but I wanted to bring it before the board in case anyone feels strongly about having coverage, staff coverage during certain of our holidays.
We did talk when we met, for the annual review with Chris, and we can absolutely ask staff if they're available to work holidays. It will be double time because it is holidays, and the district will be billed for that.
Well, I sort of feel like on the one hand, during holidays, it'd be nice to be able to use the boats, but on the other hand, it's also nice to allow our staff to have a holiday. So.
And the fact remains, there's only really like 4 boats that get taken out consistently. And so you're only talking about 4 people, where if they double time, keeping the employer, staff, and the family, just so there's 4 people.
Right. Now, the one thing that we have seen in the past is when people have, family and friends over, we've seen whole groups go out in kayaks and canoes and stuff during those holidays. And, well, yeah, I would recommend that if we're even going to consider this, let the employees still have Thanksgiving off, but maybe the Friday after Thanksgiving could be, but this is something too, that's not critical at this time to deal with, so just.
I think we can table it.
November,
Sure. Spread them in.
I'm trying to send out October.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Do you ever bring pizza to the meetings with your long?
Tri-party succession agreement,
Yes.
and you're on that, this.
Well, Mike had some changes. This has to do with your bonds. It did come from the trustee. Mike had some changes he wanted made to it, so I will let him take over.
Sure. We've seen this agreement before. It's basically the US Bank is changing their corporate structure. And that's your trustee for your bonds. They always throw this paragraph C in there where they want the district to make a bunch of representations to them. And it's really just kind of like giving the trustee a gift. And I've always pushed back on that, and the trustee's been fine with that. And so that's why I recommended deleting paragraph C. Because that would take the district doing some due diligence to make sure that there aren't any, technical issues out there that would, be violating that paragraph. So in the past, the trustee has accepted it with just paragraphs A and B, and I'd recommend you approve it with the deletion of paragraph C.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Dane Short. Any discussion at all? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. And that authorizes the chair to sign it.
Do we have anything else we must discuss, or shall? we move to
We're
adjourn?
at supervisor's
Oh,
request.
Joe, did you have a supervisor's request?
No, I was just gonna talk about, do we have any jurisdiction over the golf cart, but maybe that could be a sign when we do the signs.
Yeah.
Golf carts must be driven by licensed drivers only, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Some information about golf carts would probably be the second sign.
Yeah.
Next to the golf carts permitted.
Yeah, right.
All right, any other supervisors request?
Move to adjourn.
I hear a
Second.
motion. I hear a second. All in favor?
No discussion?
No.
8:33.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for staying.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
We got a lot done tonight, didn't
Yeah, we
we?
did.
I mean, that's,
We tabled some, so.
yeah, but still, and we're all, it's working, we're all getting something. It's starting, and I'm starting to understand some of the stuff a little bit, because I don't know about